I'll call the Thursday, June 25th, 2026 meeting of Cumberland Planning Board to order. Roll call. Mr. Zook. Here. Mr. St. Thomas. Mr. Butler.
Here.
Mr. O'Neill. Mr. Kwiatkowski. Ms. Reese. Mr. D'Ambrosio. Mr. Costa. And the chair is here. So absent right now is Mr. St. Thomas. Item number 2 on the agenda is approval of the planning board minutes of May 28, 2026. Are there any additions, corrections, and deletions? And if there are none? Sure. Okay.
Mic on. Just on page 4 of the minutes, I just want to clarify an error on my comments. This is third paragraph, page 4, where it said Mr. O'Neill stated under state law, commercial properties are allowed up to 40% lot coverage. That's not state law. The reference should be to the town of Cumberland zoning ordinance. The reference to all the lot coverage maximums there are relating to what is allowed in a C1 and C2 zoning district under the town zoning ordinance. So if that could just be revised for clarity, that would be great.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. Any other corrections and deletion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes with the noted correction on page 4.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Zook. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Director's report.
Hello, everyone. I would like to give Alex Langell, our principal planner, a chance to introduce herself and discuss the changes to the checklists that we are hoping to implement in the department.
Hello, everyone. First, it's been a pleasure working here. I'm really happy to meet everyone. This is my first planning board meeting. I managed to dodge that bullet for a couple of months, but they finally tied me down. So if you want to take a look at the different checklists that we have, recently we updated them based on Rhode Island Housing's Municipal Technical Assistance Program. The checklists that we used to use were based on the plan review stage, not the type of application. So it would be all of the major and minor subdivision, preliminary plans, final plans in one checklist, which didn't make too much sense because they're vastly different things that are needed for each type of application. So this breaks things out into the type of application. You'll see there's one for major subdivision, one for minor, one for development plan review. And you can see that each stage of review has the requirements, either what's needed in white, or if it's grayed out, that element is not needed for that particular stage of review.
Board have any questions or comments? Well, I have a comment. Thank you very much. I think this is a step forward.
Yes.
And a lot clearer for everybody who needs to review this. So thank you. And again, welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next item, item number 4, public hearing, major land development, conservation development, master plan owner applicant, the Homes at Waterman Pond LLC, location 106 Bear Hill Road, assessors plat 17, lot 21 and 110 Bear Hill Road, assessors plat 17, lot 14, zoning R3, multi-household dwelling with public water and sewer. The applicant proposes constructing 4 multi-family residential buildings, 2 5-unit buildings and 2 4-unit buildings for a total of 18 2-bedroom condominium units. The project is proposed as a conservation development within the R3 zoning district, which is serviced by public water and public sewer. A vote on this may be taken. And at this point, Mr. Costa, I will hand the gavel over to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. I apologize for my almost tardiness in here, running in at the last minute. Patrick Doherty, for the applicant.
Can I, sorry, can I give just a brief overview of what the planning department's recommendations were before we get started with that?
Sure.
Great, thank you. Okay, so the planning department has been reviewing this application for a few months now. As you guys may or may not know, it got pushed from last month to this month. So I thank you all for being here again and for your patience with us last month. We had a technical review committee meeting on March 26, 2026, where the following comments were provided. The highway department commented that they'd prefer that the condominium association take care of the open space of the development and said they would need to be a holder for the conservation easement to enforce that there would need to be a holder for the conservation easement to enforce that. The planning board members and the public expressed their concern about the increase in traffic in the area with more residential development and asked the applicant to conduct a traffic study, which was provided on April 24th, 2026, and was submitted by D'Amico Engineering Technology, Inc. The planning board inquired whether the pond within the designated open space area would remain natural or if it was to be used for recreation accessible by residents of the condominiums. And lastly, members of the public expressed concern over environmental impact of the development regarding the wetland and the potential for increased stormwater runoff. And then with that being said, the planning department staff has reviewed the applicant's pre-application and master plan materials as well as subsequent discussions with the planning board and finds the proposed development to be consistent with the stated purposes of Articles 11-1 conservation developments, including preservation of open space, reduced impervious coverage, and flexible site design. The applicant has provided a technical traffic memorandum conducted by D'Amico Engineering Technology, Inc., demonstrating that the proposed development will not impact traffic conditions in the area. An assessment on the appropriateness of the redevelopment of the subject property conducted by Pimentel Consulting, Inc., and an updated master plan narrative prepared by Millstone LLC. If the planning board finds this application is acceptable for approval of the master plan stage, the planning department recommends the following conditions of approval. Yes. The applicant is required to obtain an approval letter from the water department. The applicant clarifies the location of the sidewalks proposed within the property on the plan and in the narrative. A draft conservation easement shall be presented at preliminary plan stage, and evidence of submission of applications to state agencies as may be necessary for this proposal. Thank you.
Patrick Doherty, I'm an attorney with offices at 887 Boston Neck Road in the town of Narragansett. Thank you for hearing us here this evening. We have a brief presentation. As you know, this is master plan, which is a conceptual broad overview. I think we've done quite a bit of work in connection with the submission of a master plan application as well, with particular mind being paid toward the environmental concerns that are existent in the community as well as in the developer. One of the things that they wanted to do was to make sure that they could protect and preserve the pond itself and the wetland area. So you'll see that great care has been taken to ensure that there won't be any intrusion. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, did you need to? That's fine. Shall I proceed? Yes. Okay. So great care has been taken to ensure that we are wholly outside of any wetland buffers. We also, I would like to say as well that we just recently received our verification of our wetlands from DEM, and I'd like to submit that. We have that as well as to appease, or rather to allay some of the concerns that were raised. Obviously, today we were given a number of emails and an 11-page objection letter that were submitted by some of the people in the community. And we wanted to address those concerns in our presentation here tonight to show that there is no threat to the environment, and also to address some of their concerns, because they're legitimate concerns in the community. But the way that the project has been developed and designed, we are not going into any wetland buffers whatsoever. We have taken great care to do that. There will be a preservation of conservation area of the entirety of the pond and the wetland area as well. That will be preserved, and it will be ensured that there will be no disturbance whatsoever in any of those sensitive areas, as well as a couple of things that we went back and looked at too. I would like to submit for you the June 16, 2026 certification or verification of the wetlands. I have 10 copies up here. Shall I distribute them along here? And along with that, as a companion thing, we had had McHugh Environmental do a review of the area and to check to ensure that we weren't going to run into any sensitive issues. In addition to that, Mr. McHugh had gone into the National Heritage Report for 106 Bear Hill Road, this particular area. And we have found that there's nothing on the property that has been identified as of yet for sensitive concern. There was one hit that was found in an area, but not on our property, and that was for a tall scouring rush, which is a plant. It's generally in wetland-related areas and whatnot, but it wasn't found on this site in particular. But just for the purposes of full, disclosure and inclusion, I would like to provide the McHugh Environmental report as well as the National Heritage Report that identifies that this particular area. It'll show you a number of different icons that are on the area map, and none of which concern or touch or come near our property for this development. So if I may. So with that being said, I'd also, for the benefit of the public and you as well, the developer here, Ms. Schmidt, is very experienced in these types of developments. And one thing that's really unusual from my perspective as a land use attorney is the fact that she doesn't really necessarily believe in seeking variances. And for this project, there are no variances, there are no waivers. There are no asking for excusal from any of the regulations or the rules in putting this project together, which I think is very admirable, and especially in light of the fact, too, that not only are we just proposing 18 units where we could build 33, but there's also going to be an extensive dedication to conservation. We plan, if we can work with the land trust or some other related entity in town, to get the land over to them for the caretaking insofar as preserving and protecting the sensitive pond and the wetland areas as well. So I don't mean to belabor the point. No, I won't. You're going to hear a lot of what I would say right now from my expert witnesses here that I have tonight. So I'd like to turn it over. And for purposes of brevity, I'd like also to allow for them to give a narrative, and then I'll ask them some questions after they finish their testimony and after you've had some questions for them. So first, I'd like to call up our engineer, Jeff Hansen of Millstone Engineers, who designed the project, and he's right here at your disposal. Jeff.
Are you swearing me in? Oh, we good? Okay, great. Yep.
No, just to be clear, there's no variances being requested. If there were, then I would say yes, but because there are no variances being requested, it's a simple planning board matter, so.
Thank you. My name is Jeffrey Hansen, a principal with Millstone Engineering, the project engineers for the homes at Waterman Pond. Just briefly go over it. The site is comprised of 2 lots, total of 4.26 acres in size. It's currently zoned R3, has approximately 240 feet of frontage on Bear Hill Road. And lot 21 in the southwest corner of the property is presently developed with a single-family dwelling and associated improvements and driveway. That dwelling is proposed to be raised and that area incorporated into the project, which would be 2 5-plex buildings and 2 4-plex buildings totaling 18 units. Each unit will have 2 bedrooms. There's the rendering of the 4-plex unit. The floor of the easel there, just for anybody that wants to see the type and character of the buildings that are being proposed. Adequate parking will be provided for each unit, 2 parking spaces in the garage, 2 parking spaces in front of the garage, and then there's an additional 4 spaces for visitor parking. One may question the amount of parking if it's being overdone, but in speaking with the fire marshal, we're concerned with the size of the driveway. We want to ensure that there's be no on-street parking within the driveway area. That would be clear and there's adequate off driveway parking, if you will, to accommodate not only the units, but if anybody's having an event that requires additional parking, there's adequate parking within the development without encumbering the driveway area. The freshwater wetlands are present on the property, but they have been verified by the Department of Environmental Management, but we've designed the project to be outside of the pond, the abutting freshwater wetlands, the associated buffer area and setback areas all will be maintained as part of the project when it moves forward. Public water and public sewer are available. We've gone through the calculations for the conservation development and meet the requirements. The maximum lot impervious coverage is 50%. We're at 46%. We're below that. As Attorney Doherty had mentioned, we're not requesting any waivers or variances. As we move forward, we're going to need stormwater design to get reviewed not only by the town, but also by the Department of Environmental Management to demonstrate that we're not having any off-site impacts. We'll have to maintain peak flows and volumes on our development, not to impact off-site in the pond. With that, I'll entertain any questions that the board may have.
Any questions from the board right now? Any comments? Nothing at the moment. Thank you. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions for Mr. Hanson. Mr. Hanson, there are some required findings this board must make, and from your perspective as the project engineer, senior project engineer and designer, I'd like to ask you a couple of things. One of the criteria that is required to be shown is that there will be no significant negative environmental impacts from the proposed development as shown on the final plan with all required conditions for approval. Obviously, we're not here at final. However, as you look at the project right now, can you identify whether or not there will be any significant environmental impacts, negative impacts?
There will be no significant environmental impacts. And I justify that by saying that we are staying completely out of any jurisdictional wetland areas as part of this project.
And also, Mr. Hanson, another one of the findings is that the subdivision is proposed. Obviously, this will be a subdivision because of the
Creation of the other lot, yep.
But the subdivision is proposed will not result in the creation of individual lots with any physical constraints to development, that building on those lots according to pertinent regulations and building standards would be impracticable. Lots with physical constraints to development may be created only if identified as permanent open space or permanently reserved for a public purpose on the approved recorded plans. In your opinion, as a professional engineer, do we comply with that?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Another thing that has to be shown is item number 5, all proposed land developments and all subdivision lots have adequate physical and permanent physical access to a public street unless there are local zoning ordinance provisions allowing exceptions to this requirement, or the applicant has obtained required relief from this provision. So we're not seeking any relief from any of that, correct?
Correct.
And in your opinion, as an engineer who designed the layout of this project and did the site work, do we comply with that criteria?
Yes, we do.
Thank you very much. I don't have anything further. Do you have anything further before?
I do not. Anybody from the board? Stand, Dan Verja.
Hi, I'm looking at the master plan here, and I realize that it's early on in the process, but there isn't any indication on the plan as far as any landscaping or limits of clearing on the site. Can you speak to what the anticipated limit of, say, the backyards that abut the wetland buffer, what that may look like?
There is, if you look at the plan, the yellow line, and to the east of that yellow line would be the limit of clearing.
So it's going to kind of zigzag following the exact,
In the worst case scenario, that's what it would be.
okay, and that's proposed to be open lawn?
There would be some landscaped areas in there and then open lawn.
Okay. All right, I think that's all I have for the moment. Thank you.
Mr. Zook.
Thank you. Does the plan call for sidewalks along Bear Hill Road?
We are proposing sidewalks along Bear Hill Road only to the distance of our proposed development, to the end of the condominium lot.
And the purpose for the sidewalks is to address safety.
It's similar to the project that Mrs. Schmidt had done to the west of this project, where we bring the sidewalks up and provide pedestrian access along Bay Hill Road without going out into the roadway.
Mr. D'Ambrosio.
So are we to assume that those two properties will connect with a sidewalk? Are they directly adjacent to each other, or will there be a gap?
There's a piece of property in between those two projects that is not owned by either condominium lots.
Okay, so it sounds like if we let you guys keep developing on Bear Hill, we'll eventually get a sidewalk the whole length.
Cool.
Yeah, I had a similar question. It was whether or not it was a continuous sidewalk from Waterman Homestead to the new development, to the edge, essentially where the open space is delineated off of Bear Hill Road. And it sounds like it would be, but for a little gap there.
Cross-section, right.
Yeah.
Board have any other questions? No questions? Planning department, anything? Do you have any other
Yes,
witnesses,
yes,
sir?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. I apologize. Mr. Edward Pimentel Consulting. Ed, could you just give the board a little bit of your expertise and qualification?
Sure. It's Edward Pimentel for the record. That's P as in Paul, Imentel. Got both a bachelor's and a master's in urban planning. I've been a municipal planner continuously in 3 distinct states and many communities in Rhode Island for approximately 40 years. Had a consulting business for 30 of that. I am AICP certified, testified in all 39 cities and towns and all of the superior courts.
Okay, thank you.
And I've been before this board many times.
All right, welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah. So I was charged with both A, evidencing consistency with the comprehensive plan, and then B, affirming compliance with your zoning regs. As Jeff indicated, we in council as well, we are not seeking any variances or waivers. We made sure that we designed this in accordance with your subdivision land development regulations and your zoning ordinance. It was also our desire not to maximize the development capacity of this property. The property does have some unique site features that we want to preserve and protect. And that's why we actually pursued the conservation style development, which curiously and interestingly enough would have given us greater density. But we're not asking for that greater density, is because we want to minimize the usage of the land resources, cluster and preserve the greater majority. The property in question similar to all the surrounding properties, are zoned in an R3 multi-household dwelling district manner. This is very pertinent because that district is intended for higher density and multi-family dwelling developments at a density of 10,000 square feet for the first, plus 5,000 for each additional unit when you're served by public sewer and water. This is what is allotted under your zoning regs. This is not what we're seeking. In conjunction with that, and to realize consistency with your zoning regs, the comprehensive plan classifies the property and all the properties north of Bear Hill Road for high-density residential development. Once again, a range that exceeds 4 units per acre. So if you do the mathematics, this property could range anywhere from 19 to 33 units. We're asking for 18 units. So we're under the range of even what's permitted on this. Once again, when you develop a property, zoning and comprehensive plan is a vision across the entire community, then you apply that to the specific unique nuances of the property itself. As Ms. Morris said, I didn't even need to be sworn in because we're not asking for any variances. Obviously, when we do ask for relief, I immediately get deeply into the weeds of neighborhood character because it's one of the burdens. But it's always been my desire to show we are neighborhood compatible. So I know that this board does its due diligence in reviewing all materials. So what I did on page 5 through 6 is I analyzed every single development that surrounded this. I did an individual analysis of each of those developments and then contrasted in its entirety the character to our development. The surrounding developments have been developed at a density of 1 unit per approximately 7,700 square feet, and ours is 10,300. So we are under the densities prescribed by the comp plan, under the densities prescribed by the zoning ordinance, under the density that describes what is the consistent character of this neighborhood. So to summarize, on page 9 of 12, I provided a table and I laid out all this information. What are the conditions of our property? What is the character and the density of the surrounding developments? What would be prescribed by your comprehensive plan and the land use classification of our property in the neighborhood? What the R3 district would be permitted and what would be permitted under a conservation development. And as you can see, as you go across, we're the least dense of all of them. So I am required to address the first 2 findings. By the way, we are solely here at a master plan level to vest a project that I, with all due respect, believe is consistent and is a by right development. So the first is under section 3-F, subsection 1A. The proposed development is consistent with your comprehensive plan. This is why I do a thorough review of your comp plan. This is why I do a thorough review of the land use classification. And in conjunction with that, I do a neighborhood analysis. So we are consistent on all grounds and we are consistent with your future land use map. Then secondarily is your zoning ordinance, that's subsection B of the required findings that we have to satisfy. Once again, I repeat, we're in the R3 district. We are not seeking even close to the density prescribed by your own ordinance. We're approximately just slightly over 50 percentile. And we seek no waivers from the land development subdivision regulations as well. So given that, the first 2 findings that fall under my field of expertise, I say we've satisfied sufficiently and addressed them appropriately. The board has any questions?
Any questions from the board? No questions. Okay.
No questions, but just a quick comment. And I agree with what Mr. Pimentel presented. I think it's accurate. And I just wanted to note, because I know this is going to be brought up most likely from abutters during public comment. I did read the traffic study presented by D'Amico, and it is in line with what I thought. No appreciable, major traffic concerns with the 18 units being presented tonight. So I just wanted to note that. I'm sure we'll go back to the traffic impact study by D'Amico, in this conversation tonight. But that was in line with what I thought was going to be presented. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. To add one point to that, when we were, as a design group, and obviously the desires and wishes of the property owner, because it's her property, obviously. When we were designing this, we also took into consideration, serious consideration, impacts on the property, the neighborhood, and the community in its entirety. And that's why we also designed just 2-bedroom units. Bedroom density, people have a misnomer that unit count is the all behold of zoning. I've always told people in a stately 8-bedroom house has a lot more impact than 3 1-bedroom apartment units. That's a fact. It's a fact from a fiscal perspective. It's a fact from a traffic perspective. It's a fact from an environmental perspective. And that went into our consideration why we designed these all like 2 bedrooms, for that reason too.
If I may, I just want to make the record clear on this one. Mr. Pimentel, you mentioned that the 2 areas that were within your expertise were the first 2 items, but I think we should identify them at least for purposes of the record.
Sure.
One of the findings that has to be made is that the proposed development is consistent with the comprehensive community plan. Is it consistent with the comprehensive community?
Absolutely.
And the second one is the proposed development is in compliance with the standards and provisions of the municipality's zoning ordinance. Is that correct?
Correct. So we are not seeking any dimensional variances. And from a use perspective, we've stayed well under what would otherwise be allowed by right on this property.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good.
Feel like that. I can appreciate Mr. D'Angelo on that one. I spent 16 years in Burrville with the zoning board up there with him as the stenographer, and we have to pace ourselves very, very well. Just before we turn it over to the comment from the public or whatever the board chooses to do, again, I'd just like to say that one of the things that the developer has been very sensitive to are the environmental impacts. No, as you see in the McHugh report, there's no identification of any rare species or anything found on the property. He didn't do an underwater search of the pond, but he didn't feel it was necessary either, because nothing is going to come even close to that pond in terms of any jurisdictional setbacks or any intrusions per DEM. Okay. So I think it's important to make note that great care has been taken in the design of this property and the project to ensure that the environment is attended to, preserved, and protected, as well as the character of the neighborhood. I mean, it's 18 units versus what could be 33. I think the developer, Ms. Schmidt, has always taken great pride in the finished product of her developments. And I think it'll be another attribute for the town that'll provide a great need of housing here in the community. And it fits right in where your zoning is saying it should be. So if you have any more questions for me, I'm happy to answer. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So I don't see Mr. D'Amico here, and I do have a question about the traffic study. Is there somebody who can answer about the traffic study?
Perhaps, if you have your question. Maybe.
Sure. The question is, and I read the traffic study several times, and it may be addressed in there, and I just wasn't able to tease it out. My major concern is coming up Bear Hill Road towards Diamond Hill Road. So if you are coming up Diamond Hill Road, the YMCA preschool is on the right, the church is on the left, there's a condo. Bear Hill Road is immense. It's like an ocean right there. It's extremely wide, far wider than 26 feet. Maybe the legal road is 26 feet and there's just a lot of sidewalk, or what it might be referred to as, but it's a wide swath of road. then you come around the corner at Heinz and the road, now we're down to 24 feet, maybe, no sidewalks, no striping. And that's right where the entrance to the development is. And so Mr. D'Amico does talk about sight lines from Alaska, from Heinz. I just didn't see sight lines if I'm pulling out of that property. Somebody's going, and I know the speed limit is 25. My kids went to that preschool. I've been up and down that road 4 times a day for 5 or 6 years. Some people, I always did 25, but there are people who go 30, 35, 40 miles an hour. And if you're on that wide stretch and then coming around the corner and the road's getting narrower and you're kind of riding towards the middle because you have all that space and you're coming around the corner, I just have a question about whether the person coming around that corner is going to see somebody pulling in or out of the development. And I didn't see anything specifically in the traffic study about that sight line.
Well, if I may, starting on page 1 and continuing over to page 2, it states the site or Bear Hill Road realizes relatively light traffic and provides access to the surrounding arterial transportation network, which ultimately feeds I-295 to the north. Bear Hill Road has lower speed and sufficient sight distances to facilitate the new development and maintain safe passage of traffic along the road in the vicinity of development. In particular, he also identified Heinz Road and looked at the average daily traffic on that and realized that it appears to be less than 500 vehicles per day. And he did peak hour analysis on page 3. Begins on page 2 and carries over into page 3. And he did say on page 3 in the first full paragraph, the unsignalized intersections of Wyoming Drive and Heinz Road with Bear Hill Road were evaluated for sight distance and safety. Sight distance was examined in both directions as measured at the stop bar located at the intersection. It was observed that the intersection sight distance is greater than 300 feet in the westerly direction and approximately 250 feet in the easterly direction. Inflections in vertical alignment is slight and not considered obtrusive. Horizontal alignment lines with a sharp horizontal curve to the east. So based on computations, to his level of expertise as a traffic engineer, sight distance is acceptable based on 25 miles per hour based on the ISD equation. Now, I understand that you referenced some people do 30, some people do 35. Well, they're breaking the law. And that's pretty much an enforcement issue with respect to that. And it shouldn't be occurring if that, especially in light of the fact if there's a primary school in the area as well. I think that perhaps it's an enforcement issue rather than a traffic safety issue.
Yeah, I'll just go on the record and say it's real. And obviously I take every project that comes before the sports, very seriously, but this one in particular, because I've spent so much time down in that area, in the last couple of weeks, I've intentionally just gone up and down the road probably a dozen times, just trying to get a sense, and watching what people were doing. And it's still, I don't feel like Mr. D'Amico really addressed it in the report. I understand coming out of the development, maybe you'll be able to see Heinz Road and you'll be able to, those sight lines, I'm talking about the people coming around that corner from a very, very wide gulf of pavement to literally, it's without warning, just down to a very, very narrow strip right in front of where the development would be. It's probably the narrowest part of Bear Hill Road with no sidewalks, no striping up the middle of the road, nothing that keeps people on their side. I understand it's an enforcement issue. I mean, the police have put the speed limit signs up that change when you drive by, which I think is very helpful. So it really is a major concern for me. So, I mean, I appreciate your explanation, and Mr. D'Amico has appeared before this board dozens of times in my time here. I certainly trust his expertise. I'm not questioning his work. I just didn't see anything that was specific to that particular concern.
Well, Mr. Butler, again, I appreciate your concerns. I 100% agree that something should be done with respect to that, but an applicant is rely on this posted speed limits and lawful behavior being engaged in by the general public. I can tell you an example down in my neck of the woods in North Kingstown. They were having some problems on a very windy road, Anaquatucket Road. And that road was very windy, very narrow. It did have lines in between, so it's not the same. But they did put in some cameras down there. And I'll tell you, not only is the town getting the revenue initially, but now the speeding has stopped to ground to a complete halt. And they're heavily enforcing, and even down there, it's a 20-mile speed limit during school hours from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. as well. And that might be something that the town might want to do. If it is a public safety issue, I think it's inherent upon the town and its public safety officials to address that. And we're happy to do whatever we can to facilitate that with the design of the development. And I'm sure we'll have Mr. D'Amico here if we're lucky enough to obtain a master plan approval here. I'm sure we'll have him here for some testimony that you can get more into depth on that with him as well.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just want to add to that on that point. This is master plan. So if you choose to approve master plan, you still have the opportunity at preliminary plan to talk about traffic. So if Mr. D'Amico, it sounds like he would be here at preliminary plan also, where you usually get into more, those types of engineering questions.
And again, the provision of his report was actually at the behest of the staff as well. But it's not a usual type of a thing in a master plan proceeding to get that in depth with the traffic analysis and design. But I think he did a pretty good job of appreciating the flow of traffic, the number of anticipated trips from the 18 units, 2 bedrooms. And we feel, based on Mr. D'Amico, that it's within any acceptable parameters. But again, feel free to take your shot, at the later stages when there's more in-depth design, more planning, and we can, provide you with more data and information if requested to do so.
Absolutely. Thank you. Mr. O'Neill.
Yeah, I'd like to add another comment. Generally, I said earlier, I wasn't surprised by the results of the engineering and the impact analysis from D'Amico Engineering. And to me, as I was thinking about this development in kind of the larger sense of Bear Hill Road, the neighborhood, Diamond Hill Road, Four Corners, to me, like the 2 big problems are being talked about now. They're the geometry of the roadway, the geometry of Bear Hill Road, and speeding on Bear Hill Road. Those are 2 things that are not the responsibility of the applicant. They're out of the control of the applicant. Those are things that the town has to enforce. And I know the Cumberland Police Department does do nightly enforcement. They're usually parked by the church on Bear Hill Road so that they can get their radar looking right at the turn there. They also park next to Four Corners some nights for speed traps. So the town is doing some enforcement there, but I think there needs to be more. And I think there are other things the town could do, to Mr. Butler's point. Those speed signs that tell you how fast you're going, those can be effective. There's other types of things that the police department can put on Bear Hill Road to let the public know that we're doing more enforcement. And I think those are the types of things that do warrant more consideration.
Just to clarify, my concern isn't about the speed. Well, I'm obviously concerned about speeding, but that wasn't the point of my query. It's just, again, it's that curve and the significant narrowing of the road without anything in place that keeps people on the right side of the road, right where the entrance to the development is. The speeding, and again, even if people are going 30, 35, they're going 5 or 10 miles over the 25 miles posted speed limit. To me, it seems like it's enough that you're coming around the corner, and if you're not familiar with the road and it's narrowing, then there's somebody coming out of the development. You've got Hines, and you've got people coming from other directions and other side roads. It's just a concern that I didn't see specifically addressed in Mr. D'Amico's report, but I just don't want anyone to think that I'm criticizing the town or speeding, as I said, they put stop signs. I did when I was down there, they have the speed things that tell you you're going too fast. I mean, the town's definitely heard from the people on Bear Hill Road about their concerns about speeding. That wasn't my primary concern. It's more about, as Mr. O'Neill said, the geometry of the road. While the developer can't control the geometry of the road, it's our job to make sure that a development fits within the geometry of the road. This is a cow path, you know. There was a farms on Angel Road and farms down at the bottom of Bear Hill Road, and this was the path that the cows went back and forth to the farmland. It was not necessarily a road that was designed for hundreds and hundreds of condo units. But I'm getting too far ahead of myself, but it wasn't about the speeding. It's about the geometry of the road, where the opening to the development.
I could foresee, oh, I'm sorry.
Ms. Reed?
I don't want to, I hate when we repeat ourselves over and over. So I am just going to say that Mr. Butler was right to the point. And traffic studies are, in my perception of traffic studies, is that they're never accurate. They perfect on paper, they perfect when they come to the board, and then we have issues. So that's one of the things that I'll be looking for when we see further plans. And that will be a good question and many questions for Mr. D'Amico when he comes forward, because traffic studies, I've been on this board for over 20 years, and I have never seen one traffic study that is the right study. And here's this one. The area that is of concern is missing. So this is something that you need to bring back for the further studies or further reports, all right?
I wholeheartedly agree that we can do more on that, and we can probably get some recommendations as to traffic calming features or certain things that could be done that are within the expertise of the traffic engineer, such as cautionary signs, road narrows, entering traffic, things that you see on sharp corners before you get to that situation that presents the perceived peril. We can certainly have him make recommendations and focus on those calming and safety features as well. But again, what he did in the report again was sight distances, traffic flow, average daily trips, and what would be added to the roadway as it exists right now. But we will certainly take that under advisement and work to give you whatever you require at that next leg, if we're so lucky enough to get your approval here tonight.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Well, that concludes our presentation. And again, I'd just like to be able to address some of the concerns that may be raised by some of the abutters as the evening goes on.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so this is the time to open this up. It's now 7:20, and we'll open up the public hearing. Yes, sir. Can you come up, state your name?
Mr. Chairman, members of the planning board, my name is Matthew Pimentel. It's good to see you all again. I'm a partner at Higgins, Kavanaugh and Cooney, law firm in Providence, Rhode Island. I've been retained by Mr. Joseph Rosignoli, who's a resident of 84 Crestwood Court here in Cumberland. I want to make sure that all the board members received a copy of our objection that we filed yesterday. We FedExed it over. I'm always a little worried when I'm relying on a mail carrier to get it here. Mr. Rosignoli objects to this project and objects to master plan approval tonight on a number of bases. One of them was actually discussed extensively during the applicant's presentation, which is traffic in Bear Hill Road. My sense is I think you're going to hear a lot about that tonight from a number of the people in the audience and potentially from members of the public on Zoom. One of the requirements to grant master plan approval is this board has to make a positive finding that the proposed development is consistent with the comprehensive plan and satisfactorily addresses if there's any inconsistencies. That's in Rhode Island General Laws, section, chapter 45, 2360A. It's the standard that has to be found at each stage of the approval process. And here, your comprehensive plan at page 28 talks about housing. And we recognize that there is a strong amount of pressure to expand housing in all the cities and towns in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and the surrounding area. However, one of your goals in the housing area, I think, is really pressing here, or really pertinent. The goal states that you would focus housing development to where we currently live and where we have supporting infrastructure. And I think that latter part is the key, where we have supporting infrastructure. And I'm sure the applicant, they've addressed there's sewer, there's water, we get it. However, you're looking to add additional units to a road that lacks a center line, lacks any curbing, lacks a sidewalk for the majority of the road, other than a very small section, which was previously built by when another condominium project was previously built. And according to at least news media reports, a small section of gravel sidewalk that a resident put in front of his house. I understand that there were comments about potentially putting up cameras on Bear Hill Road to address speeding issues. My understanding is that's not available because there's no school on Bear Hill Road. Currently, the state statute only allows cameras in school zones. The residents of that area, Mr. Rosignoli lives Crestwood Courts right off of Bear Hill Road. They deal with it every day. And that roadway has previously seen a tragic accident a number of years ago, approximately 10 years ago. But although there's a number of reports, statements by your mayor about how this roadway is narrow, lacks sidewalks, nothing's been done. What has been done is increased development on that roadway, a roadway that's already overburdened, a roadway that since 1980, and it doesn't look like the roadway's been fixed since 1980, but since 1980, 269 units, condominium units, have already been built on that roadway. Those are the condominium units that literally surround the project proposal. And those aren't my words, those are the words from Mr. Pimentel's report. And I totally understand, and there's no relation, by the way, just to make that clear. We actually spell it the same exact way, which is rare. No relation, no affiliation. And I understand why he would say that. I would if I was in his shoes as well. But for the residents, the majority of residents who live in that area, who own single-family homes, who have been dealing with this situation, are dealing with a roadway that is overburdened. Simply, we would argue that, and we presented this in an objection, that the infrastructure there simply just does not support the addition of another condominium development. The second part is density that we went into, and I think this is telling. It's I can't think of a good metaphor at the moment, but it strikes me as a little, I don't want to say disingenuous, but that's along the lines, to say this completely fits in with the character of the neighborhood. It's literally surrounded by other condominium units. The applicant built one of those condominium units. So to say it fits in with the neighborhood is an issue. You've already done that. And now you're trying to say, well, this one fits in because I built that last one. Like, it just doesn't appear to really support that. And our third reason, and some of it was addressed by the applicant, I think a lot of it are the environmental concerns. This project on the property is we've termed the duck pond. It's been referred to as that. There's a little stream that runs from the duck pond in a southward manner across Bear Hill Road, and then into what has been abutting land, which is identified as Polygon 16. We think, there is significant concern of what the construction, the excavation, the landscaping of the project area and the effect that would have on stormwater management, potential runoff, on not only the project land, but also on the abutting land as well. And if there's endangered species located on Polygon 16, at least in the neighborhood abutting this project, that should be discovered, and it should be ensured that those are protected. I've also seen some comments tonight, and I think I'd be remiss not to address it as, well, we're here for master plan approval. This is just master plan. And I get it. You guys kind of do this all the time. I was on a zoning board in my hometown, so I understand. This is only master plan approval. We can deal with that at preliminary plan. But under Rhode Island law, you guys are required to make positive findings as to each of those 5 requirements. And as the project sits today, given the environmental concerns that we raised and addressed kind of well in depth in our papers, and I won't go through that because I know you all read it or have reviewed it, but also really the traffic issue in your comprehensive plan. I've represented others in development projects, and our goal always is to, get a project developed for, the most efficient cost for your client, which makes sense. However, when you're trying to build a project like this on a roadway that simply cannot support it, this board has the power to impose significant conditions on that. Widening the roadway, requiring sidewalks through the majority of Bear Hill Road, or at least through the entirety of that narrow portion of Bear Hill Road, like you said, Mr. Butler. The other thing I wanted to bring to the board's attention, and this has come up as well in terms of the traffic study. I agree with Mr. Doherty that this is an early stage, and this was just a preliminary traffic study that was provided. It's not a complete traffic study. I noted the same issue you did, Mr. Butler, in terms that it didn't address the proposed exit for the development and the sight lines there. But the other things the traffic study didn't take into consideration, it's not addressed in the traffic study, is the lack of sidewalks on that street, the lack of a center line on that street, the environmental effects. So residents of that neighborhood will tell you, hey, it might be a great sight line at noontime. That's wonderful. But when that sun's going down and it's November and you got the sun in your eyes and you're coming over that hill, you can't see. You just don't know what's coming your way. So I know Mr. Rosignoli wanted me to bring that up as well. Happy to answer any questions you guys, the board may have. But we want to express our objection and at least get you something in writing in advance of tonight's hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to come forward? Excuse me. You could state your name and
Master Sergeant Eric Briggs, Unit 1404, Bay Hill Road. I've been living here for 36 years. We bought the condo when I first got married and came back to Lane. Oh, come on. You're right. The traffic is a concern. Do you all remember when Bay Hill Road was 20 miles an hour? Okay, so he brought it up another 5. I prefer to see a house go up where that house is going to be torn down. And I said that the last time when the Waterman Farms condos went up, but tell you the truth, I know it's going to be a done deal. These gentlemen have done wonderful studies. I've been watching since they started putting out the stakes. Okay, I saw you put the stakes out. I started asking questions and I found out you're gonna put condos in there. So since I've been at Bay Hill Road, there's been 7 or 8 condo developments. And there is a lot of people living down there. And there are a lot of problems. And I just want to bring it to this board that unless the town does something about the speeding, because we all know that people speed. And I'm the guy doing 20 miles an hour, and everybody's giving me the finger. All right? And it's true, I almost got run off coming up from Abbott Run Valley yesterday, because the guy was in a rush to get around and passing me up. So in the meantime, I'm against this, but only because you're gonna tear down beautiful trees behind my house. And all those deer are gonna go off other places. So anyways, thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anybody else in the audience? Come forward, please. State your name.
Hi, my name is
Cliff.
Gary Robison. I'm at 154 Bear Hill Road. That's the Friars Greens condominiums. So I wanted to just talk about the traffic a little bit too, and especially adding to what Mr. Butler had said. And it's, for me, the biggest concern isn't the volume of traffic. I mean, there's already a lot of cars going by on Bear Hill Road, and not that many additional vehicles are going to be coming. But when you come in the westerly direction, so you're heading like towards CVS, you came up the hill, heading that way, and the road, it's wide and narrows, but right at that point at Hines, it's kind of critical there, not just because it narrows, but it's kind of an abrupt turn, and there's a telephone pole that is like right at whatever the word is for, like right the turn. And so you kind of have to swing wide around there. And of course, you got to be careful. Nobody's coming out of Hines Road. It's going to hit you from that side and all. And it's a little tricky. And I'm also concerned that people are going to come around that bend and, and hit somebody coming in or, well, especially out and making a left-hand turn from the proposed property. Now, I looked at this plan over here, and it is helpful that where the driveway would be coming out is pretty far to the westernmost part of the property. So that helps and makes the sight line a little bigger up to Hines. But I'm still concerned about it, and maybe something can be done so you can see better around that bend, and maybe move the telephone pole would be another option, because that pole is kind of crazy where you have a kind of a critical turn. And that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to come forward? Come up, state your name and address, please.
Annie Martell, I'm at 154 Bear Hill Road. I don't want to belabor it because people have said much the same things, but I just want to make sure that you understand how many people are concerned about the traffic. I am concerned about the traffic. The road there, because of the curve, you spelled it out completely, because there is a bit of a blind curve there. And even if you're going 20 miles an hour, which no one does, it concerns me that you're at a blind spot, someone's pulling out, no one's going to see you, and the person behind you is just going to have to screech to a halt. So there's just, a lot of concern there about exactly where it's placed, but you did describe it perfectly, and I just wanted to make sure that you knew that other people agree with that. The other thing is, I understand that there was a traffic study and it's 25 miles an hour. No one's going to go that way, and that's slow. And realistically, you have to accept the fact that no one's going to go 25 miles an hour. And so you have to plan that and think about the fact that people are going to go faster and how that will impact what happens on that road, regardless of what the speed limit is supposed to be. The last thing is, I understand they did, an environmental impact study, but to me, there's no way that what they do is not going to impact the rural part there and the pond and the marsh. It concerns me greatly that there is bound to be an impact because you're stripping away a lot of land. It's going to impact any wildlife there. It's going to impact whatever we don't know is there that should be taken care of. And I'm just worried about what will happen to that pond with runoff, and whatever might happen when they dig things up and move things around. So, what you have said and what he has said, I just want to echo is, those concerns are the same ones I have. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for coming forward. Is there anybody else? Yes, sir. State your name and address.
My name is Brian Richard Pecosha. I live at 130 Bear Hill Road, Sweet Meadows, Unit 101. I am the first unit in Sweet Meadows, and actually the developer built my townhouses 23 years ago. I'm objected to this mostly due to the overcrowding. We were there not first, we were one of the second units, and all of a sudden they built another one and another one and another one and another one. And the traffic study I just listened to, and I kind of laughed at it. I'm like, I live on the corner of the street. I am probably about 25 feet from the street. My house, I am an N unit. I hear cars flying by, and I'm right at that corner. So you're coming around that corner and you can see cars flying around. In fact, you even want to take a look. If you go on Bear Hill right now, you're going to notice half of my fence in my house's yard are down because somebody was flying around doing and hit it. That's one of the main problems is traffic. It's not just the speeding. The speeding is a big problem, but the traffic. You keep on adding traffic. I mean, just like when the whole thing with Seasons got approved, that created a tremendous amount of traffic that we get all of a sudden. And I've been there for 23 years, and I've seen it. It gets crazy at times, and especially at night. So I mean, I'm objected to cameras doing things like that. But that really, it's mostly the overcrowding in terms of traffic that's one of my reasons for objecting this. Also, other things are the wetlands. One of the questions I have, and my wife and a friend of mine had, who lives in the area, are the wetlands being used to meet the free space requirement? That's another, no, okay. We were just asking about that. One of the things I also, one of the questions I also have is the pond, okay? If you look at 130 Bear Hill, Sweet Meadows, we have in our yard, where my yard is, because I'm in Unit 101, I'm facing the pond. I have a very big yard. We were required, the builder was required at the time, because of our being so close to that pond, to put a retention pond to help control runoff and other things that, again, I didn't, like I said, I wasn't really involved in that. What are they going to do in terms of, since they're going to be just right behind me, are they going to be required to have a retention pond like we are? What's the runoff going to be? I'm also, for example, 2 years ago when we had those huge, large rainstorms, like, 10, 12 inches, it was like, I think one time at the town had 10, 15 inches of rain. The water, it never came up or threatened me, but, the pond came up and up and up, and it was going into my backyard. Finally, the town had to fix the drain pipe that went under Bear Hill Road, which they did, and then ended up draining. My concern is when they put that development in, what's it going to do? Is all of a sudden what currently it backs up now and it's fine even when we have flooding rains? There are no problems. What's going to happen? Is it all of a sudden my yard starting to get flooded again? Mosquitoes, other things. So, I'm not objected to building and expanding and doing things like that, but Bear Hill's had enough. The road's not designed for it. Also when you're putting in these units, I look at, they're putting 18, they could put in 36. That's ridiculous. I mean, it's crowded. We're not a city. We're a town, and we need to be like a town. And that's, another thing, just school buses. There's a school bus that stops right in front of my unit every day when school's in session. Now you're going to have to go down a few, they'll probably go down maybe 30, 40, 50, maybe a couple hundred feet to stop in front of that, because I'm sure they're going to have to put a bus stop right there because there's probably going to be families putting their students. So again, you know, you speak about that whole narrowing of the road, you know, that's another safety concern. So I just don't think it's a right area. I think Bear Hill has enough of its building, you know, in terms of condos and everything else. I think it's done. I think it should stop and say, thank you, let's go elsewhere. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward.
Mr. Chairman, I just,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bishop asked a question and I shook my head, but I just wanted to clarify for everybody else, because I think it was in one of the emails we received, whether the wetlands are included in the calculation to make a conservation area, and they're not. So the calculation is you have to take out the wetlands. The planner can correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to take out the wetlands before you do the calculation. So it's not included in the calculation for the conservation easement.
That's correct. It has to be based on the amount of suitable space for building.
Okay. Anybody else in the audience? Yes, sir. Come forward, state your name and address, please.
My name is Bryce Whitner. I'm a resident at 9 Standering Street. Thank you for allowing me to talk today. I'm opposed to this project. I have 5 reasons why. The engineer and the developer developed Waterman Homestead directly behind my house. And I stood here at a meeting just like this a few years ago. I raised concerns. My 5 concerns are, and then I'll go back and in detail describe each one in more specificity, was wetlands and stormwater runoff, i.e. flooding, traffic safety and road capacity, rat infestation, environmental impact, and historical and cultural preservation. When this developer built the last Waterman project, which abuts this existing project, we were told by the Waterman project team here at a meeting just like this, that the retainer system being built behind our house would be able to withstand a 100-year flood, and my concern was dismissed. I was told that everything would be fine and we wouldn't have to worry. There was a forest behind our house. The forest was taken down completely, and subsequently after that, our house was flooded twice. There was never an issue with flooding in our house prior to that development. Traffic safety and road capacity. We were told that there was a traffic study and that there wouldn't be any concerns about traffic and that there wouldn't be increased traffic. Our children wait at the bus stop there every day. Cars fly by and fly down that road. There's definitely a safety concern. The proposed ingress and egress onto Bear Hill Road present a clear sightline and public safety hazard, given the known speed and geometry of that road. Rat infestation has been an issue. This area is part of Cumberland's actively monitored rat zone. This development will be exacerbating the rat problem in the area. It has been proven that highly dense urban areas develop rat problems. Both with the flooding, I have evidence of the 2 floods, videos and pictures. With regards to the rats live in the storm drainage pipe directly behind my house. We have video of the rats coming and going from that storm drainage pipe. They live in the rocks. Fellow residents and neighbors suffer from the rats as well. We are clean people, but the rats have been causing a problem. 4th concern is environmental impact. I'm confused because was it stated tonight that the DEM approved this project?
So, okay, we just got the letter, so none of us have read it. I
Mm.
skimmed it. It looks like it just certifies that there are wetlands on that property and that there are buffers, but there's, the attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe there's any approvals. It's just certifying that there's wetlands on the property and that there needs to be buffers.
No, there's no, so there's not an approval of any particular state agency, including DEM, and that would be also done during preliminary plan hearing and possibly final plan.
So just wanted to address that concern. And what I will, okay, go ahead.
Sure. What was presented to you from D? Oh,
Yes.
Please, I'm not going to be more. What was presented to you tonight was the verification of the wetlands by the director of DEM. They're the only people in the state that can actually verify wetlands and delineations. So it shows that what we have provided in the plans is accurate as far as DEM is concerned. It's not an approval. And if you look at Mr. McHugh's environmental report as well, he outlines the specific state permitting and applications that would be required to be approved and submitted before this project can be built.
Okay.
So nothing has been approved other than verification of the wetland.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing has been approved yet. Thank you. Historical and cultural preservation, the scale and density of these multifamily structures are incompatible with the existing physical constraints of the local topography and surrounding single-family ecosystem. Less green space. There are stone walls there, historical stone walls. Those, in a nutshell, are my concerns. I'm happy to submit evidence of the flooding and of the rat infestation in the area because of where the drainage is located. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience? Yep.
So over the last several years, we've raised concerns about this to the town. We have documented evidence of all of those items put forth to the town as well.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. Ma'am, sorry. Just state your name and address, please.
Name is Lisa Foster. I'm at Lisa Foster. I'm at 101 Hines Road. I was here before because they wanted to put a kennel in next to our house, and we did a traffic study, and traffic was the major issue. Hines Road is adjacent, obviously, to Diamond Hill. Diamond Hill backs up. We have a ton of traffic. We received 2 stop signs right near my house. It's mildly helping. People just stop and speed. So they're heading towards Bear Hill Road, going very quickly and coming head on when I'm trying to pull out. But I'm concerned when I see fire trucks, police officers going very quickly because they need to bypass to save someone's life. So when they're going to stop and they have more traffic, that's a concern for me. And I think while I appreciate more housing because I know housing is an issue in the state, the wetlands, I do appreciate the environment, but I'm concerned about the traffic and the children. We have so many kids standing there and no sidewalks. So, and once again, just for the record, it's the emergency vehicles because we're an emergency route. So when they hit Bear Hill Road to go to an emergency, how are they going to turn if all this traffic is there? Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anybody else? How do we? Yes, sir. Just state your name and address, please.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, my name is Vladislav Nedenov. Remember me? Okay, VLADISLAV, SLAV, LAV, NAY, last name is NAY, DENOV. I live on 16 Parkview Trail, not in the neighborhood, but I have friends that live there. I know they've been having basement floods since they put the first Waterman project. I know there's retention ponds, but all the trees that have been cut, they're just causing all that runoff to go increase, raise the water table, and they've been, their basement's been like they can't really keep anything in their basement anymore. So that's a concern that I want to raise. Another one is the traffic. My kids go to the preschool that you mentioned. I've been going there for the last 8 years. I have 3 kids. Driving back and forth that street, it's really a bad idea. I mean, adding 18 houses, that's another 36 vehicles. I don't know how many trips, I don't know how they did with the study, but Bear Hill is a concern, but also going up to Diamond Hill, it's becoming really bad just to get to Diamond Hill intersection. Making a left, right, whatever. I know there was some improvements, but that's really not helping. I mean, that intersection is backed up all the way sometimes past CVS and beyond. So it's, during traffic time, it'll just add more strain onto the roads. There's no sidewalks. How are people going to, I know there was an accident not too long ago. Somebody got struck on that street. That's a concern, with such a narrow street. There's no sidewalks and people are walking there all the time. I have to be careful when I'm picking up or dropping off my kids, not to hit somebody because, people are just walking, trying to get to work or whatever. So that's another concern. And the last question I have, I don't know if it was addressed, but they spoke about 46% impervious. Does that include the area that the attorney mentioned that they'll be transferring over to the preservation or the town land trust? Because if that does, it'll increase the density and it also decrease the impervious, I believe. So, I mean, that's just something that I want to look at. From environmental standpoint, I think that's important. If it can be checked with the applicant. That's all I have. Thank you.
I thank you very much for coming forward. Is there anybody else in the audience? Do you have anybody in the queue?
There's some folks in the back.
Oh, all right, I'm sorry. Come forward, state your name for the record and your address.
Dan Ritchie, 154 Bear Hill Road. Ritchie, RICCI, 154 Bear Hill Road. Yeah, I mean, it's been stated in the newspaper all over I'm not in favor of this. It's been stated, by town officials in the past that Bear Hill Road really needs a lot of upgrades. And this just doesn't, this is just overdevelopment, I think, of the area. So that's how I feel. And it's just the narrowness of where that road, that driveway is going to come out. That's a real concern.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That road is really, it's a feeder road, if you think about it, not just for people within our own town, but nearby North Attleboro, the Massachusetts people that cut through. They cut down from 295 down Diamond Hill Road to Bear Hill Road, and then they come up from Route 1 where May Street is down in South Attleboro, and it just brings in an awful lot of traffic. I actually used to live on Payne Road on the North Attleboro side, so I used to use that road, so I'm very familiar with people using that road. So, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else out there? How we doing in the queue? Yes, sir.
I apologize. Matthew Pimentel. No problem. Representing Joe Rosignoli. I know Mr. Rosignoli wanted to speak and he's on the Zoom. He's been texting me. He says there's no option to click to speak. Okay. I would just address the 2 comments he did. And I'm not sure if there's also a Christine Baglioni on there as well. She had mentioned she was going to.
Not sure if you can hear me.
Is Mr. Rosignoli on? Okay. Go ahead, Joe.
Yes, I am. Hi, my name is Joe Rosignoli. I live at 84 Crestwood Court. I'm being represented by Matt Pimentel at this meeting. Can you hear me?
You speak a little louder, sir.
Yes. Hi, this is Joe Rosignoli. Can you hear me now?
Better.
Okay, thank you. Great. I think the master plan app should be denied First of all, because the scope of the traffic study is defective. It simply doesn't scope the most important traffic issue on Bay Hill Road, that is the danger to pedestrians. That danger is already past the point of being acceptable. And obviously adding 18 new homes would make it, would even deeper that danger. And it's not something you can enforce your way out of. It has to do with the trajectory and the volume and the width and the lack of pedestrian accommodations on that road. It's not a matter of putting up some speed limit signs. That's not going to do it. That's my first objection. And then the second objection has to do with the cumulative impacts of the, I guess, 200 plus units and now 18 more on a very sensitive environmental area on Bear Hill Road. The duck pond is on the National Wetlands Inventory. It empties into a Rhode Island Heritage Area designation, as I think Matt said, polygon number 16. Also, that stream is considered a Class AA by DEM, Rhode Island DEM, as a Class AA stream, which by definition, the water in such streams are considered to be pristine and drinking water quality. So in my view, it's abhorrent that we haven't seen a species study, a species survey yet, and that we haven't had a water quality study come forward yet. I can tell you, I developed energy infrastructure projects for over 30 years, so I was on the other side of this than where I am now. And I can tell you, if I got anywhere close to a wetlands like they are now, like they're getting now, there's no way I'd get away with not having a species survey and a water quality study. So I think that needs to happen now before we go to preliminary. Those are my main objections. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone? Just state your name, please, and your address for us.
Certainly. Christine Baglioni, 24 Stagecoach Road. You've heard ad nauseum about the traffic. My concern is about that specific area where Hines Road meets Bear Hill. Anybody who has driven over there will know that it's a dangerous portion of roadway because of the narrowing, the telephone pole that is oddly placed, the sun angle as you're driving up or down that particular stretch of roadway. Separate and apart from whatever any objections may be to people speeding, or there not being enough stop signs, or there not being enough of those flashing lights that indicate your speed limit, the installation of 18 additional residences and the location of that driveway, based on what I've heard this evening, it appears as though there's going to be an exacerbation or perhaps a creation of an inherently dangerous intersection area, if you will. The people that drive along that roadway, that live in the area, we know what happens over there. The town has acknowledged that the roadway itself, on all parts, is deficient in that it is unsafe, it is unstriped, we don't have sidewalks. I don't see that the people who presently reside in Cumberland, use Bear Hill Road, pay taxes, live in the area, will be served by the approval of this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Peter, you are able to speak now.
Hello?
Um,
Yes,
Peter, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. Thanks for letting me speak here. Just to kind of recap on, and by the way, I live at 10 Wyoming Drive.
10, what drive?
10 Wyoming.
Emily, get that? You're welcome.
So I just want to point out that, and just kind of reiterate what Mr. Butler said at the beginning. And I just want to note that in the D'Amico report, in his calculations for distance from the intersection, he uses 20 miles an hour. And the actual speed limit is 25 miles an hour. So I'd like to understand if that impacts the calculations of a sight distance from the intersection. So the traffic report that was done in 2024 does indicate that the speed limit, and it is posted on the road as 25. So I want the record to reflect that his calculation did not use the right speed limit.
We have another comment online.
Oh, is he finished? Are you finished, Peter?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Gabrielle, you're able to speak. Please provide your last name and address for the record.
Hi, thank you everybody for your time. My name's Gabriella Jean Gregorio. That's GIANGREGORIO. I'm at 160 Shirley Drive, which is basically the corner. I'm a corner lot, pretty much facing Bear Hill Road. I just wanted to thank all of the fellow neighbors and residents that took the time to speak and express your concerns. I do not want to sound repetitive, but just to make clear that I agree, strongly agree with everything that was stated in opposition today. I'm a new resident to Cumberland. I moved here within the last year with my young family, my young children. And it is concerning to see the feeling of lack of concern for overdevelopment in a town that should feel like a place to grow a family. The speed, I have a pit in my stomach every day when I see kids getting off of the school buses, knowing of the issues with sight lines, speeding. A stop sign is not going to solve anything. I did not appreciate the recommendation of cameras when that would not be able to be put in place in this neighborhood. I That is all that I have to say, but just thanking all of the neighbors for sharing the concerns, and it would be extremely sad to see this move forward for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the queue?
I do want to note that we received comments via email today from Shelley Boyer, who lives at 71 Alaska Street, which you have a printed copy of and is posted online. As well as, okay, this is from Gabriella, who just spoke
Okay.
as well.
So we're all set? Okay, I'd like to close the public hearing at 8:05. And leave the comments to the board. I would like to say one thing.
I think the attorney just wanted a moment to respond.
Patrick Doherty here. I'd just like to make a few comments if I could. I'd like to bring this back to where we're here this evening. We're seeking approval of a master plan, which is a conceptual overview. I've heard the concerns of the neighbors, and we look very closely at their concerns, and we intend to address each and every one of those concerns going forward. But what I would like to make known to the board here again is we're here to propose a project and a general overview of what we see as a vision for the project development of that property. We're not here to provide all the exhaustive engineering, because there's a reason that there's a master plan stage, and that's so that an applicant doesn't have to invest tens and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in detailed engineering, architectural, and other more, delving into the nitty gritty of all the wetlands and all the other approvals. That being said, however, I think we've provided evidence of each and every one of the criteria that are sought to be met here for your approval. And I also want to make known to you that if we don't come back, if you see fit to approve this, and I urge you to do so, because I think there's sufficient evidence in the record to approve this. But if we can't prove that we are completely protecting the wetlands, if we can't prove that there will be no net increase in runoff, if we can't prove that, again, that we have the adequate overall safety and access to the roads, you're going to deny our project. But we're at the beginning stages of this, and as a matter of law, we're not required to go into exhaustive detail. And again, I think the law was designed to allow for proposals to be made for the huge amount of dollars that are drawn into these designs have to be expended. So just a master plan approval here tonight doesn't mean that we're going to just start digging in there and we're going to, clear cut the land and do anything of that nature. It's showing you this is what we propose. We're satisfied on our end that we will be able to meet the standards at the later preliminary approvals, get the state approvals, get the final approvals that are required to show you with beyond a doubt the engineering calculations and the design to ensure that there won't be any stormwater runoff onto adjacent properties. That's illegal. We can't do that. We can't displace water from this subject property onto others. It's impermissible. Furthermore, a lot of what we've heard, and I recognize the concerns on the part of the neighbors. I certainly do. But again, there was a lot of lay testimony here that doesn't outweigh the expert testimony and expert evidence that we put before you here tonight. Now, that's not to say that, at some point we could reach a stumbling block. I'm confident in our engineer and our design that I think we're going to be able to satisfy this board to the second and final stage of approval as well. But that's not what we're here to do tonight. That's not the burden. It's to show that we can satisfy each and every one of those criteria that were set forth in the staff report. And I think the staff recognized that we did do that. Insofar as the level of the speeding on that road, again, I do believe it's an enforcement issue, and perhaps if people don't think that a stop sign could address it, perhaps some speed humps would address that and certainly calm the traffic. I know that they did that on Smith Street across from the State House, although I wouldn't want to see something the size of that in this area, and I'm sure none of the neighbors would as well. But there are other things that can be done in terms of calming measures, and we'd like the opportunity to come back here with the traffic engineer preliminary plan and show you what exactly can be done and, put our money where our mouth is. So again, a lot of these concerns were speculative, and I would just like to note one thing, because I do, Mr. Rosignoli did state that he was involved in developing projects, and in his opinion, that you would have to have an environmental assessment and check for rare species. But he was developing energy projects. This is a residential development. We've done our brief survey. We have the McHugh report. We've shown the concern area and shown that there's nothing on this property as identified by Rhode Island DEM that is of concern or sensitive. And this is all speculative. And again, if we can't prove to you that we can build this project to town standards and to the standards that are set forth in the subdivision planning regulations, then we won't be able to go forward. But we'd like the opportunity, based upon what we put here before you, to come back and show you that we can engineer this project. We can build it in a safe, effective manner that also is sensitive to the environment and the surrounding neighborhood as well. So I would ask that you again, let us give you the opportunity to come back here again and show you a preliminary plan that we do have the engineering. We can satisfy the state officials and the licensing and regulatory agencies as well as this board. So thank you very much for your time. If you have any last questions, I'm here. But after that, I
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We've heard a lot of testimony this evening from a lot of the neighbors. I lived on Crestwood Court back in the 70s. They built the first housing project in my backyard. So all these comments that these neighbors have had this evening, I lived it. I know exactly what they're talking about because I was there. My colleagues here on the board, yes, you could drive up and down the street, Bay Hill Road, but to do that every day, your kids are in the playing in the street every day. I lived there for over 25 years. So I sympathize with what these people are going through. And there was no stone water. There was no pond that we worried about. It was all about traffic. As Mr. Butler said this evening, and that's where we went. I don't know how you can prove to us, quite frankly, how this project is going to be safe on Bear Hill Road. So that's a huge undertaking that your client is going to have to go through and come up with in order to convince me that this project deserves to be there. Again, that's my personal feeling, and I open up to the rest of the board. Any comments that you might have to say, like to say?
Sure. Yeah. So on a personal level, I used to drop my child off at Four Corners Early Learning Center to daycare, and I've always been very grateful that that daycare exists. It's a wonderful daycare off of Bear Hill Road. I know there are other members of the board who also dropped off kids at that daycare for a long time. So there are other folks who have the same experience of driving Bear Hill Road, dropping their kid off, seeing the school buses, pick up the kids in the morning, driving back, picking up their kid in the afternoon. Several of us have done that, and some of us lived in the neighborhood for a long time. So the traffic concerns have been around for decades. And I think my greatest concern with this is that we are putting the onus on the applicant to resolve traffic problems that the town should have resolved 10, 20, 30 years ago. Bear Hill Road is a poorly designed road. It has wildly varying widths that are dangerous. You go from a 20-foot wide road, roughly 10-foot travel lane on each side, to a turn where it abruptly expands to about 40 feet with no real rhyme or reason as to why the road width is that wide. And then it goes back to 20, and then it goes back to 40 around another bend. And these are the areas where I mentioned earlier, the Cumberland Police Department are always out there in the evening doing speed traps because everyone knows those are dangerous corners and people are speeding around them. So I've always had concerns about the geometry of Bear Hill Road. We've had fatalities on Bear Hill Road. One of the members of the public mentioned that it happened when I worked for the town. This was over 10 years ago, I believe, where a individual who worked at the gas station on Diamond Hill Road left their shift, walking back home, was hit by a car and died. Horrible tragedy, and the town should have acted at that time, in my opinion, to do really in-depth studies about the geometry of the road, whether or not we could make the right-of-way work to put in sidewalks on at least one side of Bear Hill Road to improve the safety, because there are people that walk there. There are many kids that wait at the bus stop on Bear Hill Road. It's a big traffic concern, and it has been for decades. So I guess one thing I want to mention here as I look at the development proposal, read the traffic impact study, look at all the analysis that's been done by the applicant. It's not the applicant's responsibility to fix the geometry of Bear Hill Road, in my opinion. It's the town's responsibility, and the town needs to consider what type of traffic calming improvements make sense on Bear Hill Road and get them done. The town deserves to have a safe road. It deserves to have a safe road that people can walk on, that people can bike on, that parents feel safe getting their kids to school on. I personally don't feel that the addition of probably roughly 50 to 60 cars from this proposal necessarily drastically increases the problems that already exist on Bear Hill Road. But I do think the sightline distances are somewhat problematic with the reality of speeding. And again, the applicant, it isn't their responsibility to stop speeding on Bear Hill Road. It's the town's responsibility. So I just wanted to mention that. I know other members of the board probably feel differently. We're looking at this particular development and its impact on Bear Hill Road, listening to the public's concern that they have about traffic. But these are long-standing concerns that I've had, that I know many of the members have had. And I just wish the town would do something, really get the ball moving on looking at Bear Hill Road and making it safer.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
where to start? It's not my job to defend the town, but I know I did watch a town council meeting within the last year or two where they did talk about a lot of things that could potentially be done on Bear Hill Road. The police chief testified, from what I remember. And there were just no easy answers. So I just think the public should know that the town, I think, does take safety on Bear Hill Road it is important. I know that the police chief and the town council and the mayor have, made efforts, and there's always conversations about sidewalks but how expensive and how complicated that is to start digging up people's front yards to put in sidewalks. The question is, should all of these developments been approved on a road that had bad geometry and traffic problems? And I know, I've been on this board now 15 years. I know Mr. Costa and Ms. Reese even longer than that. So I've seen a lot of these proposals and a lot of traffic studies. And Ms. Reese is correct. With the exception of one, which was a project over here, I've never seen one that said, well, this is really going to have a detrimental effect on the traffic. Because one development really doesn't have much of an impact on the traffic, but you keep approving developments and you wake up and now there's suddenly 200 units on the road. And that does affect the traffic. That does mean when you want to pick up your kid at Four Corners and you just want to get home because they're exhausted and you're exhausted, and you can't even get past the light at CVS, because the traffic is just backed up, down Bear Hill Road. The folks, and I do it too, I cut through to get to King Barbara and South Attleboro, and I cut through to get back home on Saturdays. I mean, we all live it. We all go to Dave's. We're all on this road. We get it. But I don't want to put all the blame on the town, because I think the town's is in a difficult situation trying to address these problems. But Mr. O'Neill is right. You also can't put the onus on the applicant to correct those problems. And I don't think any of us would expect the applicant to correct those problems. But we have to evaluate the project based on the situation as it currently exists, not what the town may do in the future to calm traffic, or to put a stripe down the middle of the road, or put in sidewalks, or widen the road where it's too narrow. We have to make a decision based on what it looks like today. The other thing that I will say, because we hear this all the time, is it's just master plan, it's just conceptual. If you approve it, you can always deny it at preliminary plan. Mr. Costa and Ms. Reese, again, have much more experience on this board than I do, but in the 15 years I've been here, we've never rejected anything at preliminary plan, ever. Once it's at master plan and it has master plan approval, there's some tweaks around the edges. There's a little, can we do this? Can we do that? Can we get a bigger fence? Can we make a bigger storm retention pond? But it's never, no, it has to be rejected. I understand the attorney, Mr. Doherty's point about it's not fair at this stage to force an applicant to do major engineering studies and environmental studies if the project's not going to move forward. I certainly understand that, and I am sensitive to that. I guess the last thing I will say is that, I was on the board when the previous condo development was approved. I remember Mr. Whitner very well. He made some very passionate arguments for why that development should not have been approved. I think I remember running into him at Dave's after it had been approved and telling him how hard it was for me to vote for that project. I didn't regret the decision, but it was difficult, and his testimony especially had weighed heavily on my mind. Ultimately, I voted to approve that project because There were no waivers requested. It was an R3 project in an R3 zone. It was basically, in my mind, a by right development without any variances or concerns. And what I remember telling the neighbors is, when you have a project where there are no variances and it fits within the zoning and all the setbacks are correct, and there isn't much we can hang our hat on to deny a project. And I'd mentioned at the last meeting that, I think the developer did an excellent job with that condo development aesthetically. It looks nice. I know people who live there. They love it. The difference in my mind about this particular project is the environmental concerns. And I understand, as Mr. Doherty said, that, under state regulations and town regulations, any stormwater that's created as a function of this development, they have to be able to prove to us that that stormwater is going to stay on that property. But I think, again, in the 15 years I've been here, I've seen a lot of developments where the developer has proved that the stormwater that the development is producing stays on the site. But water, when you start ripping out trees and ripping out rocks and putting in foundations, the water on the adjoining lots starts to behave differently. And that's never accounted for when we look at these stormwater management systems. Usually I can overlook that. In this particular case, I'm really concerned about that pond. I'm really concerned about the brook that goes under Bear Hill Road to the other side. I'm concerned about the swamp area. We're in a drought right now, so it's really difficult to tell what happens if we have a spring like we did 10 years ago when it never stopped raining and Warwick Mall flooded and I wasn't able to get to work for a week because the place where my office was flooded on Jefferson Boulevard. When we have that kind of spring, when we have that consistent deluge of rain, how does that pond and how does that swamp react? And how does this particular development affect that? And that's not an answer I see in any of the documents that we've gotten so far. So that the environmental concerns for me are a major concern. And the narrowness of that road and that curve and that telephone pole, everything that everyone talked about, that sight line does make me nervous. The previous Waterman development was a little bit further up the road, so it's not so much of an issue with the sight lines. This is much closer to Hines. And so that's a concern for me. I will just end by saying, I know in the past, some of my colleagues have said, maybe we should continue this for a month. I'm always the advocate saying, I don't think we should continue things because it forces the applicant to have to spend money to bring the attorney back and to bring the experts back. The neighbors were here last month. We didn't hear this project. The neighbors have been here for almost 2 hours tonight. So I understand the gravity of saying it would be helpful to have another month to think about this, but we received email testimony from abutters. I got it like at 2 o'clock this afternoon. I was at work. I skimmed it on my way here. I got here early. I skimmed it when I got here. We were handed the DEM letter and the other technical document that I haven't even looked at. I took 4 pages I have everybody's names and the things that you said. For me, there's just a lot to think about, and it would be helpful if the applicant was willing, and if my colleagues are ready to vote tonight, that's certainly fine, but I would find it helpful to relook at all of this, to really digest it, to go back down there and take, a more closer look at this area before making a decision. But again, I respect the applicant's time and money, the abutters' time and money, my colleagues' time. So if folks feel like they want to dispense with this tonight, I'm fine with that. I know we're, Mr. Chairman, coming up on 8:30 and Mr. D'Angelo needs a break, so.
Yep, that's fine. Any other comments from the board before we go forward on this? Sir?
As everyone else is concerned with, it's the traffic and the safety of Bear Hill in general. I would hope that the final traffic evaluation would include some facts. Right now, we've talked about it's the curvy road and it had, the speeding and so on. Perhaps if that report, that the final one had an accident count, speeding tickets, so on, some actual facts of what the volume has resulted in. Is it truly a dangerous road? I know, I've lived there for 30 years on Waterman Farm. Yes, Bear Hill can be slow at the top of the street, and it's only gotten worse because more people have moved into town. But in terms of the speeding and so on, I'm not sure. And if you live there long enough, you know where the turns are. You get used to driving the road. So I appreciate what everyone has said tonight, but if the report that is to be done by D'Amico could include some traffic count of, accidents on the road, those types of things, that might allay some concerns that everybody has.
Okay, all right. Any other board members? Mr.
Just
O'Neill?
want to note real quick that the town did do a Safe Streets for All plan last year, a safety action plan, which mostly focused on redesigning certain parts of the community for safer pedestrian and bicycle multimodal access. That report did have some information on recent crash data for the town of Cumberland. It had a heat map locating some of the recent crashes in the community. None were on Bear Hill Road, as far as I could tell from that study that was completed in 2025. But I would just urge the members of the board to probably look at that again and just look at where the crash data was. It's not a long-term longitudinal crash study of Bear Hill Road, but it does give some recent data for the town of Cumberland.
Is it digitalized?
It is on the town planning department website.
It is, okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I would just like to bring it to the attention of the board that, as we did last month with one of our applicants, you could put a condition on the master plan approval that they do a peer review of the traffic study. Just as something to consider.
okay, okay.
I'm sorry. We would be happy to have an objective peer review of the traffic study. But one other thing too that I would like to just point out very quickly is we didn't do an exhaustive traffic study because it's not required at this stage. We it certainly acceded to the planning department's request that we provide something. But again, that's an extraordinary undertaking with a lot of money that is ordinarily presented a preliminary plan. And again, we're happy. We're not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. And I'm not suggesting you're saying that. No. And I'm sorry. I didn't mean to infer or imply that you were doing that, but it's more a statement from me of honesty that we're not trying to hoodwink anyone here.
Mr. Butler pretty much summarized everything, concerns, environmental, safety of people on that street. And like Mr. O'Neill just said, it's been a concern as far as I've been on this board, it's been a concern. And I thought a few years ago, something was going to happen. They were going to put sidewalks on part of it. And then it just disappeared. So now we get this project that comes before us. And you've heard our concerns. And I want to ask the rest of the board if anybody has anything to say before we kind of come to a closure here. Mr. Zook?
Thank you. Yeah, just wanted to add my 2 cents. I definitely feel conflicted about this application. It is in an R3 zone, multifamily. As was pointed out, the density could be potentially anywhere from 19 to 33 units. I appreciate that the applicant is looking for 18 units, which is not at the top of that range. At the same time, I take very seriously the comments from the neighbors, the abutters. I appreciate their time that they've taken to be here and give us their 2 cents. I think the word that was used for Bear Hill Road recently was overburdened. And in my mind, I wonder how much more development that road can take. I mean, it is an R3 zone, but right across the street from Bear Hill Road, it's R1, single family homes with a lot of residents that have a lot of significant concerns.
You know, one thing that has been mentioned about this project is the fact that when somebody owns property in the town, and if they want to do something with that property, as much as people don't want to see something happen, they still have that right to develop the property. So having said that, it's, you know, it's their right. Their right. And I'm looking at the agenda here, ladies and gentlemen, and in capital letters for this project, it says a vote on this application may be taken. So I leave it up to the board. What would you like to do?
I'm comfortable taking a vote tonight.
What time? Did you say that?
I just said I'm comfortable with taking a vote tonight.
Oh, you're comfortable, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do I hear a motion?
I guess my motion would be a motion to approve public hearing, major land development, conservation development, master plan applicant as presented.
Okay.
Mr. O'Neill, I would, at a minimum,
And with the conditions noted by the planning department.
I mean, did they put in all the standards? You know, you have to make findings of fact, so let me just look at the.
There are findings in the planning department memo, but I will point out that when it comes to negative environmental impacts, the planning department is recommending that this finding be deferred until the preliminary plan stage.
Which you can do. So as it was stated tonight, that finding is really geared towards final plan. So frankly, with regard to traffic and any environmental impacts, which is going to include stormwater design, all of the things that have been discussed tonight, you can specifically defer that to preliminary plan. And I just want to be clear that, Mr. Butler, even if you've approved every single preliminary plan, you don't have to. If they do not come back with sufficient evidence to meet every single one of these standards at preliminary plan, you can deny the project at preliminary plan. I want to be clear about that because that is a legal issue.
You know, 100% agreement. We always have the ability. I'm just saying in my experience, we never have because
Understood.
by
but
then it feels like, well, we've approved.
Understood. I also
but we
want
can.
I want the public to understand that it is important for this board to understand that, and the public, this is a conceptual plan review and potential approval. It is not the end stage. There are 3 stages here. There's master plan, which is the concept. And we often ask for a traffic study to give, you know, preliminary information, but they'll come back with a more robust traffic study. I am certain they will address the concerns that have been mentioned tonight, including that site distance issue. You can, as Amelia said, you can order a peer review for preliminary plan where you're hiring the traffic engineer, the applicant is paying for that, but they work for you. So they can review what's been done by their traffic engineer so that, you know, you and the public have confidence in what's presented to you. So I just want to be clear about that for you and the public. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Mr. O'Neill, is there anything you'd like to add? to that?
Well, you put me on the spot. I know you and Chris and Dave usually do the motion, so you're well versed in how to say these things. I think this is the first motion I've done since I've been here.
Yes, right.
I know.
Oh, that's okay.
So I don't want to do this wrong, but my motion is generally to approve the proposal at master plan with the required findings. Do I have to read all of them?
Mr. O'Neill, you don't have to read them. You can rely on the planning report and the testimony presented tonight.
If I may, I would like to say that the applicant has already provided a letter from the water department, which was a requested condition by the planning department. But since this planning staff memo was written before last meeting, they have provided that additional context.
And do we want
Okay.
a peer review of the traffic study?
I think we should, yeah.
And add that to the motion?
Yes, sorry for this long halting motion.
No, no. We want to do the right thing.
Yes, so continuing with supporting the required findings as put forth by the planning department with the understanding that we are deferring the finding on environmental impact to the preliminary stage of the development. And with the staff, planning department staff recommendations that the applicant clarifies the location of the sidewalks proposed within the property on the plan and in the narrative proposed, that a draft conservation easement shall be presented at the preliminary plan stage of the development, that evidence of submission of applications to state agencies as may be necessary for this proposal will be provided, and we've talked a bit about those tonight, that they haven't been approved yet. That's the next stage, and we're going to require all of those from all the state agencies. And that we are going to add another addition to this, another condition for a peer review of the traffic study that was completed by D'Amico Engineering.
Okay.
And I don't believe there are any other conditions that I'm forgetting.
That's fine, but we have to put it in our motion.
Yeah, oh, no, I understand that, but the motion was directed towards this. We're going to supplement this. We've heard loud and clear the concerns of
All
the
right,
board
well,
and the public.
we're in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just,
We're closed with the discussion with the public.
But let's be clear.
Yeah.
Let's be clear about
Okay.
this. I just want everybody to be on the same page. A traffic study, more robust traffic study that you're used to seeing will be presented at preliminary plan stage. They will have to give that to the planning department for them to then engage with your peer reviewer before we even get to the actual hearing. And I think that's what Mr. Doherty was saying.
Okay.
It's just the process. So that's how we will handle it.
And just for my own mind's clarification, I think what I was saying with the peer review of the traffic study is that we heard concerns by some of the planning board members tonight that they didn't believe some of the numbers being presented within the traffic study by D'Amico. And so I think we want another engineer to confirm some of the analysis, and with the realization that there is going to be a more in-depth study at the preliminary stage.
Okay.
And
Get that, Andy?
Let's correct that, not by D'Amico. Traffic studies that were presented, it doesn't have to specifically be that one company.
Understood?
And I believe that is the end of the motion.
Okay, if that's the end of the motion, do I hear a second? Mr. Kwiatkowski, second. Okay, I'll do a roll call here. Mr. Zook,
No.
Mr. Butler,
No.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Kwiatkowski,
Yes.
Mr. DeBrosia,
Yes.
Ms. Reese. Vice Chair, Mr. Costa votes no.
Mr. Chairman, you now have to come up with findings of fact for the denial.
1, 2, 3, 4, 3. Well, it's a 3-3 vote.
No.
4-3.
All right, what did Mr. Zook was no, Mr. Thomas isn't here, Mr. Butler was no, Mr. O'Neill was yes, Mr. Kwiatkowski was yes, Mr. D'Ambrosio was yes.
You were the tiebreaker.
Ms. Reese was no.
Okay. Ms. Reese was
No.
no. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't get that check.
So I believe when this happened once in the past, rather than coming up with the findings against at that particular meeting, the planning staff took the comments from the planning board and drafted some findings that we then looked at.
I don't know what those comments would be. It's not clear to me what what the denial would be based on.
So my denial is based on the traffic.
So you'd have
And
to
the
make
site-
that motion. You'd have to make some kind of a motion to give them some guidance. I mean, it's really not clear to me what 4 people voted on a denial of, based on.
For me, it was the traffic and the environmental concerns that I don't feel I have enough information to certify that it's consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Okay, so you'd have to make that motion
So you're saying you need an additional motion to deny is what?
with findings of
with-
fact.
The Butler, still with you?
No, the public hearing's closed.
Yeah, I think my understanding is Mr. Butler or one of you voted no, we need to make a new motion to deny the application and just explain the findings that back up your move to deny the application. If I'm understanding this solicitor correctly.
Yes, because it has to be a motion that at least 4 people vote yes on.
I do also want to call to our attention that it's after 8:30 and we should take a break for Andy.
Yeah, I think if we can take a break for Mr. D'Angelo's sake, and that'll give us a few minutes to figure this out.
I can start.
Is this okay? All right, so it's 8:45. We'll take a 5-minute recess. No. You're welcome. Thank you. I'll reconvene our meeting at 8:59.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Butler.
as I was on the prevailing side of the vote, I'd like to make a motion to reconsider.
Okay. We have the reconsider, Mr. Butler.
So.
We have the motion.
Yes. So as I mentioned during my long diatribe, I was hoping that we could extend this for a month because of the amount of testimony and the comprehensive plan findings. And it is sometimes very difficult in these high pressure situations without a lot of opportunity to review all the documents to make these quick decisions. It felt like my colleagues wanted to take a vote, and so I didn't push my recommendation that we hold off for a month. During the break, I did have the opportunity to seek legal counsel from the solicitor.
Okay.
And based on her analysis of the situation, I have decided to change my vote to the affirmative.
Okay, so do we
First, you have to actually vote on the motion to reconsider. And somebody, Mr. Butler, because he was in favor of, or voted not to approve, he's making that motion, which is appropriate.
Okay.
And then somebody has to, from this, anybody who also voted not to approve would second it, and then the whole board can vote whether they want to reconsider. So that's the first step.
So my motion would be to reconsider.
And I second.
And you second, okay. Is there anybody else?
Now you just take
You get
the
a
vote.
Just
Just
take,
take the vote on the motion to reconsider.
okay, Mr. Zook,
Yes.
Mr. Butler, you're voting yes.
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Kowski,
Yes.
Mr. D'Ambrosio.
Yes.
Ms. Reese,
Ms. Reese is yes, no.
Mr. Costa votes no. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeses and 1 no.
To reconsider.
To reconsider.
So now that we are reconsidering the matter, all of my concerns remain the same. The reason that I'm moving my vote is, we are a quasi judicial body. We make decisions. Folks have the opportunity to go to court and appeal those decisions. Our solicitor needs to feel comfortable that she can defend our decisions. And again, in this very short amount of time, I don't know that we can give her a defensible position regarding master plan. As it's been stated many, many times tonight, this project will come back, assuming the applicant decides to move forward with the project. It will come back for a preliminary plan. There will be a more in-depth traffic study, which I'm concerned about. There'll be a more in-depth environmental study, which I'm concerned about. There will be another opportunity for abutters and experts to weigh in. As the solicitor said, we are under no obligation to approve anything at preliminary plan, but we are at a conceptual stage, and the concerns that I raised really go beyond the conceptual stage. Having been here for 15 years, as the solicitor pointed out to me, I should know better. But again, in these long nights when there's lots of things flying around, you sometimes forget. So I sincerely apologize to the abutters and neighbors who may feel like something shady happened, but nothing shady happened. It truly is just taking a moment to reflect and make sure that, we're making the right decision. And there is a huge expectation of preliminary plan that we will have a lot more detail and a lot more information. And if those concerns remain, I will, make a decision accordingly at the preliminary plan stage. But I will, at this point, make a motion that we approve the master plan for the homes at Waterman Pond, location 106, 110 Bear Hill Road, Assessors Plat 17, lots 14
Mr.
and
Butler,
21.
sorry to interrupt.
Yep.
You're reconsidering the previous motion
Okay, so I
that
just
was
have-
already made.
So we're.
Yeah, so there was already a motion made by Mr. O'Neill, seconded by,
Ms. Reese.
yes.
Oh, no,
Ms.
Mr.
Reese?
Kwiatkowski.
Oh,
Mr. Wachowski.
Second?
So
The
now,
original motion.
so you are reconsidering that motion.
Okay.
So the motion is on the table already. So we're voting.
Unless anyone else has any comments, yeah, we would just vote.
Okay. To reconsider. All right, Mr. Zook.
No.
Mr. Butler.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. O'Neill.
Yes.
Mr. Kwiatkowski.
Yes.
Mrs. D'Ambrosio.
Yes.
Ms. Reese.
Yes.
Mr. Costa still votes no.
The vote is to approve the master plan with the conditions that were outlined.
Okay, we have 5 yeses and 2 nos. So the motion prevails.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Solicitor.
Thank you.
Uh,
Right? But we have another item. Yeah, you keep these for your file, okay? This is the first vote, second vote, last vote. Ever. Doing it.
Is it listed?
We'll get to that.
Ready to go?
Reconvene the meeting at 9:07 p.m. Next item of business is public hearing minor subdivision preliminary plan application type Unified Development Plan Review of a minor subdivision, owner applicant Dana Jones. Location 282 Scott Road, Assessors Plat 41, Lot 18. Zone A2, medium density agricultural. Without public water or sewer. The applicant seeks to subdivide a 4.33 acre parcel into 2 lots. The subject property is in an A2 zone with no public water.
Yeah, or sewer. Proposed parcel A would be 98,491 square feet, and parcel B would be 90,320 square feet. Parcel A contains an existing non-conforming dwelling that sits 25 feet from the property line, and an existing non-conforming accessory building that sits 22.2 feet from the property line, where a 75-foot setback is required. The applicant also needs relief from Article 6-5, C, because the accessory structure is located between the front of the primary dwelling and the street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Technical Review Committee reviewed this on June 9th. The fire chief and police captain had no fatal flaws. The building and zoning official, Larry, basically brought it to our attention that the accessory structure was closer to the building, closer to the road than the principal structure. And for that reason, we requested that the applicant apply for additional relief for that. And I advised the applicant that they should show an easement for a driveway on parcel A, since one does not currently exist. And lastly, Kayla Ballou, who is an abutter of the subject property, aired concerns she had about the proposed conditions on the plan. See the attached draft of the TRC agenda under public comments. And then moving forward, our planning department's recommendation is that we recommend approval with the following conditions: that the applicant identifies within the plan the front setback of the accessory building and requests the dimensional relief from Article 5-2A and from Article 6-5C of the zoning ordinance. And then also that the applicant shows the easement of the proposed plans for a driveway on parcel A.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Is the dimensional variance that's in the staff memo, does that take care of the zoning issue, or is there an additional issue on top of the dimensional variance?
If I may, Amelia?
Absolutely.
I read the staff report, and the comment from the building official regarding the barn being in the front yard, I would consider that a non-conforming condition. In other words, you don't need relief for something that's already there. So I don't think they asked for it, and I don't think they need it because it's already cited in the front yard. So the answer to your question is no, I don't think any other relief is needed.
So just the one dimensional
Yes.
variance?
Yes.
Okay, so I will amend the planning department staff recommendation to exclude the need to ask for additional relief.
You don't have to amend the recommendation with Larry's comments.
Okay.
I'm just letting the board know on the record that it exists, so it's legally non-conforming.
So board, have any questions, Mr. D'Ambrosio?
Considering the age of this property, some of the emails we have are citing 1769. Does this show up on any historic registers or anything like that that protects it in any sort of way?
Thank you for asking, and I got the same question from Josh this afternoon. No, this building is not located within our historic district. The address is not within the historic district, and it's also not noted on our master zoning map
You don't have
that
to.
it is in a historic district.
Actually, I like
So can I just clarify, this kind of thing gets kind of confusing sometimes. So when people talk about a national register district property, a national register property is not local zoning. A national register is listed as, because of its historic value, on a list of properties within a community that have gained approval from the federal government and recognized for their historic value. The applications for those types of properties go to the state Historic Preservation and Heritage Commission. They get reviewed and the federal government agrees, and then they get added to an existing National Register district. A lot of those properties are, 17th, 18th, 19th century properties. And I believe this is one of those properties that I think is listed on the National Register, but not in the local historic district. So the town does have a historic district that abuts this property. It's the Upper Scott Road Local Historic Zoning District. But this property that we're reviewing tonight is not in the town's local historic district. So my understanding is it wouldn't require any further review by the Town Historic District Commission or any comment or approval by the Historic District Commission. And I asked the planning department about that because I reviewed the zoning map, and it's an overlay zoning. It's a little hard to see on the town zoning map. But there's a difference there between a National Register property and whether or not it's in a local historic district zoning district.
And if I could add to that, even if it were a historic district, local historic district, it wouldn't be subject to HDC review until the new structure was being proposed. So the HDC, Historic District Commission, wouldn't get involved in the subdivision, but it would get involved in the actual proposal for the new structure.
Seems like if a property has been intact for 250 plus years and it's part of the local fabric, protecting that entire farmstead would be, ideal, I think.
So I had that case. I actually represented neighbors, and the reason why I know this is because I lost. The Superior Court said no, and actually this was a very famous garden in Providence that I felt should be protected as an appurtenance, because that's what it says in the historic district legislation. And the court said, no, you don't get involved. The Historic District Commission does not get involved in subdivisions. So I've been there, done that.
That is too bad. Okay.
So this is familiar, similar to Franklin Farm, which is on the National Register. But it's not in a historic district, I don't believe. No. Okay. Any other questions? Sir, you're on.
Members of the board, for the record, my name is Paul Carlson, owner of Insight Engineering Services, offices at 501 Great Road in North Smithfield. We are here representing the owner and applicant, Dana Jones, for the location at 282 Scott Road, SS Plat 41, Lot 18. This is, as we mentioned, is located in A2 zoning district without public water and public sewer. What I'd like to do is just do a very quick presentation for the board. If you don't mind, I'll do a share. Hopefully it works. Thank you very much. All right. So, as mentioned, this is located on 282 Scott Road, northern section of, just off of 295, just south of 295. We have a small aerial half-mile radius of the subject lot. Subject a little bit shorter aerial located in this particular area on 282. We have residential houses that surround this particular location. The dimensional areas of the surrounding areas are run between 0.13 acres and 6.1 acres, generally within that 300-foot radius. The existing boundary of this particular lot contains 4.33 acres of land, and as has been mentioned, the existing house and accessory structure or barn is a non-conforming property, or excuse me, structure located within the front yard setback of this particular parcel. Just give context of the contours on the property. We have high spots on both the southeastern side and in the northern section, which drains both to the east, north, and to the south. What we're proposing is a two-lot subdivision. Within that two-lot subdivision, as mentioned, in the A2 zoning district requires 80,000 square feet, 180 feet of frontage. And the existing lot would be converted into a 2.26 acre parcel of land with 248 feet of frontage. And parcel B, which would be the second lot, would have 2.07 acres of area with 197 or almost 198 feet frontage. We have obtained successful soil evaluations witnessed by Rhode Island DEM for both the proposed structure, excuse me, the proposed lot, as well as the redesign of the existing structure. The proposal for the existing lot, or the new lot, excuse me, would occupy about a third of the area that is shown on the property. We do have, as part of the application with DEM for the OWTS, we would have rain gardens that would be part of the overall parcel, and as shown, a very limited area of disturbance within that parcel. We, as is mentioned by the planning department, seeking a few variances for this property under Article 5, Section 5.2, the front yard setback for the existing structure, which again is 75 with only 25 feet of dimensional of existing for that particular property. In addition, the accessory structure again is 22.3, requiring 75. And then, as was just mentioned as well, under Article 6, 6.5, no accessory structure located in front of the main structure. And then in this case, the accessory structure is located in front of that principal structure by 2.7 feet. So we've gone through, I think as part of this proposal, we do meet all of the frontage and area requirements for this parcel, and the zoning variances that are being requested are that of existing structures and not of the necessary as part of this proposal. So be happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Butler.
Just for clarification, there is something that came up at the technical review committee about driveway easement on Lot A. I didn't really understand what the issue was, but I just want to make sure it's been resolved, whatever it was.
Yes, and I'm not sure if it can, no, well, there is a, I apologize, this doesn't move very well, but maybe the, record here. In this general location here, just make this a driveway. We're proposing a new driveway to this house, but also proposing one to the existing lot. So a easement is not necessary for this particular lot.
So it'll be two distinct driveways, one for each lot?
That is correct.
Perfect, thank you.
Board have any other questions at this point? Okay. Thank you. I'll open up the floor for questions or comments regarding this proposal. I'll open up the public hearing at 9:25 PM. Is anyone in the audience that has any questions or concerns? Just 1 minute. Please come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Kayla Ballou. I live at 280 Scott Road. One of the main issues with this proposal is the applicant. The applicant did not file this application, nor will he be available for any questions, comments, or concerns from this board now or in the future. I know this because Fire Commissioner Dana Jones died April 22nd of last year. He did not file this application. It is erroneously in his name, but he didn't actually want this. He, like my family and like my neighbors, all share many of the same concerns with the subdivision and potential building on this property. People who are in talks of developing this property who aren't listed do own the 17.5 acres surrounding this property, which makes this consideration a bit different when you consider how much land could actually be developed on. I also have concerns based on, the comprehensive plan for the town. The town's 2016 goal, and I quote, is appropriate housing opportunities in the community with a focus on infill development, redevelopment in the mill districts, and the rehabilitation of existing housing units. This is none of those things. There's also a particular interest for rare species habitat and exemplary plant communities, as well as wetland areas and specific bodies. The natural heritage area determines that this area is home to a lot of these plant communities, these rare species. There's also concerns about the water and the environmental impacts on building another house in that area. There is no public water access. Living next door, I can tell you firsthand, we run out of water quite frequently. You have to ration. Can't do 10 loads of laundry and everyone take a shower at the same day. If you were to approve this subdivision and it was to be built on, there would be another well in the area, which would only make this issue worse. The goals in the comprehensive plan to protect and manage trees, significant vegetative species and natural wildlife, to protect natural resource areas, including wetlands, wildlife habitats, groundwater aquifers, and salt marshes, and to protect our natural resource systems, sensitive water resources, and natural habitat for future generations. None of these would be met if you were to approve this. I think that the housing growth management plan states it best, and I would like to share an exact quote from it. Development sites north of Interstate 295 continue to be most likely targets for future development. These areas, especially agricultural zones, which 282 I believe is zoned as agricultural, are also the most vulnerable to environmental impacts of residential growth. Costs of public services in this area are extremely high because they are located outside of the current villages and subdivision tracts where services are already available. Cumberland's rural character is often perceived by developers as an indication that a large amount of land is available and suitable for development. This could result and speculative acquisition of vacant parcels and may ultimately lead to more confrontational pressures to relax environmental standards. Housing developers are likely to respond to the scarcity of available land and its high cost of developing more expensive projects for an affluent regional market. Contrary to the town's policy of directing new development toward the existing population centers in neighborhoods with water and sewer services, new homes have been developed throughout Cumberland's northern rural areas. Cumberland has a history of speculative housing development as opposed to development responding to local need. This particular property is as described, and as described there, it's scary. The plans to develop around that area, that 17.5 acres that I was talking about, the property next door is owned by that same person and was rented out. The occupants of that property who were renting were told that they were to vacate, indicating that there may be future plans to do a much larger development than what is being proposed here. And that can't even be considered because the applicant is not the people who are making these plans. It is someone who is in the ground next to my aunt. You do not just have the legal ability to deny this request on the basis of the comprehensive plan, but I feel you have an ethical and moral responsibility to do so. Because we want to leave a town for our future children that has a clean environment, that is not so overpacked that there's no possible room for any development ever, that has lush natural resources. We're not talking about building affordable housing to allow future generations to move into Cumberland. They're talking about a subdivision and a single family development likely to be worth around $1 million. That is exactly what was warned against in that quote that from the housing growth management, that they're looking at these areas as if they are just spaces that need to be built on, need $1 million homes, need really big affluent markets. It's not a marketplace. It is our town, it is our natural environment, and it would be a detriment not just to me, not just to my family, not just to my neighbors on Scott Road, not just to you, the entire planet, the entire natural environment of Cumberland, Rhode Island, if you were to approve this plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for Ms. Baloo? No, thank you. Is there anyone else? Is there anyone in the queue? No, no one? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Butler.
we had forwarded to us an email from Jamie Ballou, who lives at 280 Scott Road, who said they were not, her and her husband were not able to make the planning department meeting tonight. But they did have some questions that we had promised we would get answers to. So their first question was, how much of the lot will be cleared for the building of the new house?
As I had presented, of the total acreage of, 90,000 square feet, there was approximately 40,000 of that would be utilized for the purpose of this. So half of the lot.
And their second question was whether there would be any blasting or jackhammering to accommodate the new house.
Not that I'm aware of.
And then they were, I know it's impossible usually to answer this question, but they were interested in the timeline, if there was a timeline of, yeah, and we're really just approving a subdivision, so what happens after that?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have a question, although I'm not sure if this is the right time to ask it.
Go
But
for
we're- What we just heard from one of the abutters was a contention that the applicant, Dana Jones, is deceased.
I did talk to Mr. Carlson. I don't think he prepared the application. Somebody in your office did.
Correct, and I can answer that specific. Greg Jones is the brother of Dana Jones and is the executor of and owner of the estate. And he was the one who signed on behalf of that estate.
Okay.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we have like accurate information and nothing's being misrepresented here, because the staff memo, as well as the plans drawn up by Insight Engineering, list the applicant as Dana Jones, who is deceased. The applicant is really
The estate.
the estate of.
Correct.
Well,
And-
no, actually, the applicant is Heritage Builders. The problem is, and we go through this all the time, the new OpenGov portal, essentially whoever is entering the information can be the applicant. So I don't know how this, and we're trying to work on this, but oftentimes, if I'm doing an application, either me or my paralegal is the applicant, which makes no sense. We're looking at the documents. The applicant is Heritage Builders. There's an owner signature that could be Greg Jones. I can't read the signature. It is notarized. So I think we can just clarify if that's Greg Jones, it's notarized. So, I mean, we have to take it for what it's worth. If he's the executor, then he absolutely has authority to sign.
Yep. Okay, I just wanted that clarified so we weren't
Yeah.
misrepresenting anything.
And I just wanted to take the opportunity to say that the OpenGov portal creates these problems for us.
We are in the process of updating the online application, and owner information is required, as well as the authorization form. So hopefully that helps mitigate some of this, but it's definitely something we'll keep in mind as we get new applications.
Before we continue, I want to close the public hearing at 9:34 p.m. In Mr. Comments to the board? What? You got
Sorry.
somebody?
We had comments that came through online that were not noted. Ken and Tony Hanwa of 275 Scott Road. That was also printed and given to you, as well as Michael Hawkinson Jr. of Florida,
Yes, yeah. What's up?
of Port Charlotte, Florida.
And was there a Jonathan Barad also?
Yes, that is my last one here. It was Jonathan Berard.
So for purposes, we need to enter these into the record, these emails.
I've told staff that, again, with this new portal, they're going to enter all comments into the portal for the
Right.
record.
Okay.
So they don't need to be read into the record, but they are part of the record.
And they are uploaded to the portal already.
I wasn't getting at reading them into the record. I just wanted to make sure that they were part of the record. Okay. Does anyone else have any comment, Mr. D'Ambrosio? Yes, I just did. Right after you made your comments, I said, oh, I better close it. Yes, Mr. D'Ambrosio.
Thank you. So I have a little bit of a problem with this, just because of my aforementioned concern about the historic property, whether or not it's under a register or protected locally or not. The comprehensive plan on page 83 does have a goal of protecting and enhancing the quality and utility of Cumberland's cultural, historic, and scenic resources. And while I understand that, they own the property and they have that by right, I do think that from a comprehensive plan point of view, I think we have to at least think about whether or not that this subdivision of this historic farm negatively affects the cultural and scenic resources as stated in the comprehensive goal. So I just want to kind of put that out there. I think that it's an important thing to think about. We don't have very many of these properties left in town. And I think it would be a shame to lose another one in such a manner. Thanks.
Well, I have a similar concern, as far as it being on the national record. Does that include buildings and property? And what,
No, it only includes buildings, and the town, not the planning board, but the Historic District Commission, only has jurisdiction over structures and the building of structures.
okay, but the feds have the same thing, just the buildings? Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, I didn't hear all that.
Sorry, I didn't press the button. The National Register, if your property is listed, the property owner can become eligible for loans and tax credits for rehabilitating their property. So it allows them to have that ability to get some help to maintain a historic property.
So the federal government recognizes this as a historic structure, but the town of Cumberland does not.
Well, I understand that. It was just a question of whether it could be subdivided. You know, and then you're cutting off a piece of what is supposedly part of the register. So I didn't know if it was buildings.
I'm not aware of anything that would preclude subdividing the property. The National Register doesn't impact local zoning or subdivision.
Mr. Butler?
So, yeah, for me, it's just a clear subdivision. I read all or at least skimmed, didn't have a lot of time, but I did read through the emails we received, some in favor, some opposed. The ones that were opposed talked about the issue that Mr. D'Ambrosia brought up. And I do agree. It's one of the things that certainly folks in town are concerned about is the changing character of the town. However, the remedy for that is the Cumberland Land Trust or owners put properties like this into a trust or into a conservation or selling it or donating it to the Cumberland Land Trust. It's really the only option we have. I've made this speech 100 times. You can't say to a taxpayer that owns land, you have to keep paying taxes on this land, but you can't do anything with it. The good news, I guess, is that it's zoned A2. So it's not zoned R3. So we're not going to have Bear Hill Road type condos on this property. A2 will keep some of the natural landscape there, as much as we can protect. As I mentioned with the last project, I certainly understand the environmental issues, but I think the size of this project, it's not as concerning to me as it was with the last project. I'll just say about the infill development goal in the comprehensive plan. I think that is an important element of the comprehensive plan, and I think we have approved several projects just in the last couple of years, North Shore Mill, Annanoe, St. Patrick's, that are all about infill development. I think it's something that the town has prioritized and that has led to the approval of those projects. But the comprehensive plan says you can't do anything except infill and development. We would prefer more infill development and reuse of these old mills and these old buildings and these old structures as opposed to disrupting farmland. But again, folks have the right, if they pay taxes on the property, to make the decision to create a subdivision that's within the zoning ordinance, which this one is. And so I plan to approve it.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman? Do you want to go first?
Mr. Kwiatkowski?
You just have to get close with the mic.
As Dana Jones is deceased, and he had the house, what's the intent of the estate to do with the house? Who's going to be what I'm getting at is anything going to happen to the existing structure? Yeah, right.
Honestly, I could not answer that question right now. I don't know that answer.
Because I heard something about it was being rented and they were asked to leave. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
I'm just concerned what's going to happen to the existing property, that's all.
My understanding it would stay, but I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Are you still interested about the rental portion of it?
That's fine. I was just concerned with what the estate might want to do with the property now, that's all.
I'm going to add a comment. So my concern echoes Mr. D'Ambrosia's concern about consistency with the comprehensive plan, not specifically for historic preservation purposes, but for issue I've brought up in previous meetings, most notably when we looked at the Staple Road subdivision several months back. We're looking at another small minor subdivision, gradual parcelization within the town in areas of the town that the comprehensive plan identified as a problem for parcelization, which is the gradual approval of minor subdivisions, which over time have a much larger impact across town, and this board allowing development to occur adjacent to areas that are protected conservation properties. Scott Brook Conservation Property abuts this subdivision proposal. It is just to the north of the subdivision proposal. We also have, and I want to make sure I say this correctly, the Otis Smith Farm / Row Bottom, I believe is the full name of the conservation land to the south of Scott Road of these properties, also owned by the, well, that one's owned by the Cumberland Land Trust. The Scott Brook is owned by the town of Cumberland. So this is an area that goes back to that section in the comprehensive plan, which talks about the protection of natural resources and our responsibility to really think about these smaller subdivisions in the context of what we're doing when we're allowing these to be built and fragmenting the potential for connected conservation corridors. So that continues to be my concern. It'll be my concern for other subdivisions that come up that are like this, that abut conservation property in town. So I just wanted to state that.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Zook.
Thank you. I'd like to echo what Mr. O'Neill just said. I believe in this case, the goals of the comprehensive plan to protect natural resources and natural habitats, I think, for me, outweigh the goal of increasing housing stock by 1 in the town right now.
Like Mr. Zook, anyone else? Well, my biggest question is, does he have the right to subdivide? And do we have the ability to deny this? And that is the biggest question. If he's got the right to, if he has the right to subdivide it, okay? And this board really, for all intents and purposes, really can't deny the application, then what do we do? And I agree with everyone's comments, Mr. Zooks, Mr. D'Ambrosia, and also Mr. O'Neill. I do agree with their comments, but what do we do?
So a couple of things. I wasn't going to say this, but this was filed as a unified development application. It shouldn't be one. It doesn't need any zoning relief because the house is situated in a way that the front is already there. If they needed relief because they were moving a lot line closer and they needed side setback relief, then yes, it would be unified development. But because they are literally just putting a line and those front yard setbacks are going to remain the same, they really don't need any relief. Therefore, it didn't even have to come before you. You know, I mean, there's state law and case law that says that when the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance are not consistent with each other, the zoning ordinance controls. This is A2 property. This is 2-acre zoning, they not virtually, they meet all of the requirements for a subdivision. You know, the historic nature of the property is, again, I mean this respectfully, but it's somewhat subjective because the town hasn't designated this as historic.
Yeah.
So I understand all of the concerns, but this is a by right development and a by right subdivision.
And that was what my question
Yeah,
was.
so I tried, but I'm trying to give better explanations. You know, we just went through this with the last application, like, you know, you are a quasi judicial body, you have to apply standards, and those standards have, you know, their legal requirements, so.
Anyone else? Mr. D'Ambrosio?
I mean, I guess it doesn't matter, does it?
It is what it is.
It is what it is. So,
Attorney Morris and members of the plan, I just, I guess as part of the explanation that was just had, given that this really shouldn't have been a unified development application, and given that it would have been done as an administrative by right, is this even necessary for an approval?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't want to just keep mucking it up tonight, but there is, you know, you could actually withdraw the application and submit it to the planning department. I mean, it doesn't need any relief.
Right.
But I just didn't want to take away your fun tonight, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
I
just,
did the 3 hours,
Yeah.
I really did.
And I just want to say on behalf of the planning department, it was our misunderstanding of unified development review that led to this, so apologies.
I guess at this point, given the opportunity, I think, well, I guess I would hear from the board to the purview, but I'm just wondering from a legality standpoint, if this does remain as a unified.
I can't advise you.
Understood.
I only can advise the board.
Yep.
But you know, I think I've given enough information and advice on it.
So, and understanding from other experts, I will actually withdraw this application as a unified development and refile as an administrative subdivision by right.
Okay. So we don't have to take any action.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Well, look at it this way. If we hadn't asked all these questions.
I know. Boy, I'll leave that to you guys.
Moving right along. Okay, item number 6. Recommendation to the zoning board of review. Owner applicant, the Ronnie C. Ramos and Daniel A. Ramos Family Revocable Living Trust Agreement. Location 204 Lee Road, Assessors Plat 64, Lot 44. Zoning R1, Single Family Household Dwelling with water but no sewer. The applicant seeks a dimensional variance from zoning ordinance 5-2 paren B for relief from the side setback and rear setback requirements for an existing accessory building which is located within 7 feet of the side and rear corner of the property line. The applicant also requires relief from zoning ordinance 6-5 paren C because the subject building is located between the front of the main structure and the street. Staff comments.
I have a question.
Mr. Costa.
Ms. Salvatore, this is the first time I'm seeing revocable on an applicant, or what does this all mean?
That's just the owner. That's the ownership, which you really don't have to worry about. Trusts can be revocable or irrevocable.
Right.
So that's just, they put their property into a trust, that's all.
Okay.
I was gonna take this one because, this property is here before you because we are, Larry Enright, the building official, has actually issued a notice of violation. The Ramoses are here. They've hired Mr. Pimentel to help them with the zoning application. And, you know, Mr. Pimentel can add to this as he sees fit. So this is a property that is in between Lee Road and Beach Street. And it sits up really high. So at some point in time, the Ramoses built a rather large garage on the property. I've been involved with it on the violation side. Mr. Enright and I have visited the property, and we've advised them that they needed to, you know, pull a permit, and they needed to seek relief from the dimension in the back. I think they're asking for both side and rear yard, because if you see the larger structure on the front of the staff report, it's kind of, you know, hitting the corner that juts in. So we're calling it rear and side yard because we're really not sure which one it is. As you know, accessory structures can be close to the property line if they're small. So they can be up to 6 feet. But this one is too large to be able to take advantage of that smaller measurement. So the planning department has looked at this. We believe if you look at it as if they haven't pulled a permit yet, they would meet the standard for a variance. It is a uniquely shaped lot. It's an L-shaped lot with 2 front yards. So there's really nowhere else they could have put that structure except there. And it's also in one of the 2 front yards. So most people have the opportunity to put something in a rear yard, but they don't have that opportunity. If you're driving down Lee Road, it almost looks like this would be the rear yard. It just happens to be a street right next to it. So the planning department, you know, and like I said, I've been involved with this, is recommending that you recommend approval to the zoning board. And like I said, I don't know if Mr. Pimentel has anything else to say about this. We do have some other violations. They've agreed to take down a pool and a deck that actually encroaches into town property. So I don't know if that demolition has started yet, but they've already agreed to remove the pool and the deck. And we're really just trying to legalize what's already there. So that's what I have to say.
Well, the structures are existing.
Sorry?
The structures are all existing.
It's existing and they failed to pull a permit, you know, but like I said, if we look at it as if they haven't built it yet, it's up on a hill. You don't really see it from Lee Road. If you look at it from, you know, the variance standards, I think they would meet the standard because of the unique shape of the lot and where they have to put this garage. So that's the town's position.
Okay. Mr. Pimentel.
Yes, the record. First of all, an apology for, I don't like just showing up, you know, I need to get a report into the record, but their attorney, Richard Pasha, and the Ramoses actually literally just brought me out of what Sweden and then diligently doing the research. And as
Listen to
Attorney
Mike.
Morris, I'm sorry. As Attorney Morris said, I don't, 99% of the time I'm asking for permission, not forgiveness. But there's always that one time that I look at it and I say, if we could look at this as a blank slate, would it be justifiable? So here are the unique conditions here as I've now formulated the argument and it's being put into a report form for the zoning board, and I would have had it for you too. If you take a look at the aerial photograph, as Attorney Morris has stated, there's 2 front yards. So if you're trying to balance where to put this, there's no place you could position this without being between a principal and a public right-of-way. We would have needed relief no matter what they do because they have to deal with that issue because the house is situated dead center of the property. Secondarily, it's balancing front yard with side and rear. because the front yard is pretty considerable, so they were balancing that. Something that doesn't show here, there was a sizable bond structure that had been there historically. The foundation around the barn, because they had horses, breed the Ramuses, is a corral with the barn. The foundation is there. I did historical analysis. I went on the aerials from DEM. The foundation's been there forever. So they took advantage of where the barn structure was. They took advantage of where the foundation was, added no more impervious surface, and accommodated the garage. Obviously, when you tore one down and built another one, you should have pulled a permit. And then the issues would have come to light at that time. And once again, that we have to apologize for. The other reason why they put it there, they took advantage of a lot of things. Foundation, where the barn was. That, you see that yellow line that's on the aerial? That's town-owned land. So the other thing is they were pushing it back also to the town and away from neighbors. So there was a lot of considerations here. The other thing is that you can't tell from this picture. If you go from the southerly point, because north is dead center, to the northeasterly point, this property drops 25 to 30 feet just across its lot. On the Lee Road side, that's the official address. In the first 5 feet of the road to their property, it jumps up 10 feet. So there was no way to get a curb cut there. So they took advantage of the egress and the driveway and everything that's been historically and did everything right, but not everything right. They should have pulled a permit, done it. We would have been before you and the board saying, asking for permission, not forgiveness, with a lot of valid arguments. So all I can say is I'll jump on the sword for the Ramuses and say, I really feel it's justifiable, but we do apologize.
Thank you. Board have any questions?
Not really a question, but just to clarify, we're only being asked to give a recommendation to the zoning board of review tonight. We're not granting any relief.
Mr. Neal, I understand that, but I take the recommendation serious.
Yeah.
So, and Mr. Neal knows, he's in the planning world and do both influence. There are three types of communities. There are those that all the recommendations go through the planning board, planning commission, right? There are those that go just through the staff. And then there are others that are kind of unique that I won't mention that. So whenever I ask for a recommendation, even if it's staff, I want to get as positive as I can to the zoning board. That's why I felt it was important to show up and explain tonight.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the zoning board certainly could use a little work because, for the most part, it's been the burden of the planning board. So I don't have a problem with sending it over to. Hearing, Mrs. Zook, comment?
Yeah, you might have seen the puzzled look on my face. I guess I'm sort of wondering from the town's perspective, what the advantage is for recommending yes versus recommending no. I have to admit I'm a rule follower, so when I see the pool and the deck that's on town land and not where it's supposed to be, then I'm like, what's going on here? And do I want to vote yes on this? At the same time, would it really make a difference to vote no? Because the garage is there already. I appreciate the explanation. It sounds like it made sense to kind of put it where the foundation was. I did drive by there today, and yeah, it's a very unusual property, which you from Lee Road, you can't really even see the improvements almost because it goes so sharply up. So I go around and go down Beach Street, and it's a big garage. It was kind of bigger than I expected. It's zoned R1. I'm not used to seeing a garage like that in R1, so then it made me think, is that appropriate for that area? What is it used for? There are a couple.
That's a good question because I had the same concern.
Okay, there were a couple bobcats there.
So we inspected the property because it is a big structure. It does meet the height requirements. They're not asking for a variance on height. So it's allowed. They need the setback variance. We were concerned that they might be using it for commercial. They're not. I went inside. Larry went inside. We would have issued a violation on that. I don't know what happened when they put the pool up. I don't know if there was a permit issued then. I have no idea. It's on town property. It has to come down. And they've agreed to do that, and that's one of the conditions. You know, I'm looking at this, and I think I've said it, I don't want to be repetitive, as would the zoning board approve this if they hadn't built it yet? And you're asking for how the town comes to this recommendation. That's how we're looking at it, is that they made a mistake, they didn't pull a permit, and they need to rectify that. And in order to pull the permit, they need the variance. I mean, you can recommend no. You know, our position at this table is that it is a uniquely shaped property, and where they put this garage, which again, is only inconsistent with setbacks, not with height. I know it's a big structure, but it's not inconsistent with height, and it can be big. It is big. So I hope that kind of addresses, that's where we're coming at it, is that pre-building permit, would we have made the same recommendation? The answer is yes.
That helps. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, given the benefit of the doubt, we say lines. You go out there, you don't see the lines. So, yeah.
Chairman?
It's just a situation where it's easy to see the lines on the paper, but out there, you know, mistakes can be made. I understand that. So, Mr. O'Neill.
Just a question for the planning department. The town-owned parcel, I was trying to look this up on the map geo. If I'm correct, it was from a tax sale property. That's how the town got it, that parcel that they put the pool over.
I thought it was given to the town by like Corning. No? I can't remember how we
Okay.
acquired it.
I thought it was listed as a tax sale for
Oh,
like,
it's definitely not tax sale.
okay,
We own it. We definitely own it. It's not just a tax sale interest,
okay.
because, yeah, we own it.
Thank you.
Well, I have no problem with sending this over to the zoning board to give them a little bit of work. And I'm okay with it. So with that, do I have a motion? Or any other discussion? Do you disagree with me?
No, I just have a question on how do we follow up on the recommendations that they're being done? Is there a time frame? What have you?
That's code enforcement, Mike.
So, yeah, so they are at municipal court right now with violations, and they have decided and reported to the court that they want to seek these variances. We're asking you to condition your recommendation on, removal of the pool and deck. There are other kind of unrelated violations that we're working through the process. But yeah, the building, they're under violation right now. So the building official is taking care of that through enforcement.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion in regards to
Mr. Butler.
204 Lay Road, assesses plat 64, lot 44, that we send a recommendation to the zoning board of review that the proposed rear and side setback variances are consistent with the comprehensive plan. And we would further advise the zoning board to consider adding conditions that the existing pool and deck encroaching on town-owned land be removed, that equipment being stored on town-owned land be relocated, and that the applicant clears debris from the town-owned land. End of motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Butler. And a second by Mr. Costa. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Chair votes yes, motion carries. You're welcome.
Make a motion
Whoop. We got one more item.
not to adjourn.
Public hearing.
Okay. Item number 7, public hearing. Public hearing for review of amended land development and subdivision regulations. This ordinance aims to address changes proposed by town staff regarding buffer and stormwater control requirements. Staff.
Wait, can I talk?
No, because this is not land development regulations. This is an ordinance. So you're only making a recommendation. You're only making a recommendation to the town council.
That's what you-
What he read that it's land development regulations and that it's a public hearing.
That's what it says on the agenda.
Yeah, right. So I'm just clarifying. I don't think it's a fatal issue because it's on for public hearing and you're doing something less than that.
Mhm.
But it's really just a recommendation to the town council.
Okay. You still have to have the public hearing because it was this way?
No.
No.
I mean, you can open up the public hearing.
Wow. Yeah.
Why not?
It sees people, we don't want to
Yeah.
disappoint them. It's recommending this.
That was my point.
Okay, apologies. Yeah, so this zoning went through the town council in April and they approved it. After it was approved, it was presented by a consultant and the consultant didn't update something that Romeo had caught, DPW. And he wanted that updated, and then when we reopened it, we found a couple things we also wanted to switch as a department. So those are reflected here in the language. Essentially, we just wanted to make sure that the definition of buffer was something we were comfortable with. And we added some language about making sure that the plantings used in buffers are native and naturalized to Rhode Island. And then we also made sure in section 6.9 that the language covers not only the zoning, but also the uses that are mentioned. And then we updated the table to include the language that also has the uses and not just the zones.
Mr.
And-
Costa.
Yeah,
How's that?
no, I'm good.
No,
Thank you.
go ahead. If you got anything else to add.
Okay, and then Romeo's language was that he just changed stormwater basins to stormwater control measures. So-
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Costa.
Now I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I have.
I have
I was-
a comment.
we still have to forward the recommendation.
Oh,
Mr. Zook.
Make a motion to forward the recommendation.
You have a question?
Oh,
So,
stop it.
the definition of buffer is different in the printed copy that we got versus what was on the website. So I want to clarify what we're looking at.
Where did you find, and is it in the current, where did you find it on the website originally?
On the planning and community development website with our meeting and the agenda and stormwater bylaw amendment. When I click on that, it's a shorter definition for buffer. It's lines 9 through 13. And in the printed version, buffer is 9 through 16, but there's some strikeouts. The reason I'm asking this is in the printed version, the last sentence, the buffer shall utilize plant species native and naturalized within Rhode Island. Sounds great. But it says, and walls and or fences, either of which shall provide yada, yada, yada. So is it your intent to require vegetation and a wall and or fence? Or should that read plant species native and naturalized within Rhode Island and may include walls and or fences? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying.
Because I wouldn't want to require more walls or fences than we need if we're looking at a buffer that could be vegetative.
Right. Do you guys hear what he's saying? Okay, so if we amended the language to say the buffer shall utilize plant species native and naturalized within Rhode Island? Or how about a mixture of walls? Because we want them to be able to use walls and fences as well as plants, but a
I think-
mixture of the two?
If after the word if after Rhode Island, you say and may include
Okay.
walls and or fences,
Okay, so the insertion of the word may in between.
may include,
May include, thank you. It's late.
that would make me happy.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
I
Mr.
also,
D'Ambrosio?
I also have a comment.
Yeah.
So I'm a landscape architect, so the highlighted utilized plant species, native and naturalized within Rhode Island. The naturalized part kind of opens the door to almost anything that could live in Rhode Island that's not necessarily native. And if it's a buffer requirement, we may want to just tighten that up a little bit.
Yeah, the reason that I chose to include the word naturalized is because as the climate changes, so does the plants that can live here. So I think I was debating between going with the native and naturalized angle or just banning invasive species, but in Rhode Island, they don't have an invasive species list. So I would be fine to just make it native, but I guess
Yeah, I mean, I guess if the intent is for it to allow ornamental planting as a buffer, then naturalized makes sense. And I would maybe just think about including, and obviously no invasive species line in
right.
there.
Okay. Do you have an opinion? Either of you?
Well, for purposes of clarification, the reason why I wanted to recognize Mr. Costa is because Mr. Costa owns waterfront property. So I figured he'd have something to say. That's why I recognized him first.
Oh.
Not for a motion to adjourn.
That's me all up.
Okay, we'll
So-
just,
So, Mr. Costa, do you have anything else to add?
Do not.
Okay.
Sorry. Sorry.
If this isn't ready, you could continue it. And maybe Mr. D'Ambrosio can work with the planning staff to get the right language and then bring it back next month. And then I'll just tell the council to continue it until you have language that everyone can agree on.
yep, it just has to be done by August, so.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan. So, Mr. Costa.
Are we ready for a motion?
I'm ready for, public hearing, public comment.
You don't have to continue it or anything because it's on for recommendation. So you can just pass and go to motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Costa. Seconded by Mr. O'Neill and the rest of the board. All in favor? Opposed? Opposed? Anyone? The ayes have it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.